Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. White girls, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that.
Stugotz, at the risk of really upsetting the audience, we could start with the Florida Panthers winning 5 straight on the road.
Yes.
On the road.
What against the Rangers, yeah.
The defending Stanley Cup champions going on the road and just dragging everybody. I've got a couple of things that I want to get to, including a beaming and radiant Jessica, who, again, fell asleep on a late Monday night just listening to Steeler press conferences, just delighted with the glow of her telephone on her face because the Steelers have some offense now, and they can be dangerous if they have some offense.
Dan, I had to stay up late and hear what Mike Tomlin said about the challenge flag that he threw on the George Pickens touchdown, which should have counted because he got 2 feet in bounds. Well, the same foot twice, I guess you could say. And then replay assist was like, nope, not a touchdown. You have to get 2 separate feet in bounds for it to count. And Tomlin threw his challenge flag, and then Steelers were not able to challenge it, so they got a timeout taken away. And in my head, like, Tomlin historically awful at challenging. Like, his challenge record is terrible. In my head, I'm like, oh God, here we go again. Why are we challenging this? They already ruled that it wasn't a touchdown. In the press conference, he said he didn't know replay assist had already ruled it a touchdown, and that's why he threw the challenge flag. And if he knew that replay assist had already reviewed it, he wouldn't have thrown the challenge flag. So the Steelers just get a timeout taken away on this inexplicably because I guess the communication wasn't great with the sideline, and that's a huge bummer. It ended up not mattering. Steelers won by 8. Daniel Jones had a chance to take the Giants down the field inside 5 minutes. Best defensive player in the league, TJ Watt, one-on-one with the Giants tackle, makes a move, strip sack, fumble recovery. Steelers get the ball. Giants get the ball back.
You're breathless, Jessica. I need you to
Steelers,
slow down. It's
she's
aggressive.
doing play-by-play.
But it's cafecito, and it's a lot.
We're almost done. The Steelers end the game with an
excited.
interception from Beanie Bishop, his third in 2 weeks, third against the New York sports teams. Game over.
So I don't blame you for not naming the tackle. I think his name is Illuminor.
Yeah.
Jermaine Illuminor said before the game that he wanted TJ Watt man-to-man. He didn't want any help, and then he allows 3 sacks and a forced fumble, and J.J. Watt is making fun of him on Twitter for wanting TJ Watt one-on-one. But I think that there should be a new rule that if you do get 1 foot in twice, it should count as 2 feet. I haven't seen a whole lot of
The
that.
play made no sense.
Yeah.
The way George Pickens flew from essentially the middle of the end zone in terms of depth out of the back of the end zone without his second foot going down was crazy. He was just shoved and went flying out of bounds.
I think it's more difficult to get the same foot in twice. It should count as more.
But being able to push a receiver out of bounds has been allowed for close to 20 years now, and it's part of the game. I would say let's not change the rules just because George Pickens found the one loophole to put the 1 foot down twice. How about George Pickens find a way to put that second foot down and we don't have an issue?
It wasn't that he was pushed, it was that he was being lifted, which I think is like falls in the same category. But it was really confusing. Like Billy said, he caught it like 6 yards into the end zone, had 2 feet clearly down. How are we counting one ass cheek or one knee as 2 feet, but 2 feet from the same leg don't count as 2 separate feet?
But then what do you do with a toe drag? What if one foot just drags 5 feet across?
Nope. It's got to. No,
That's
it's
different.
got to.
No,
it
5 foot.
it didn't come off the ground.
No.
One foot's gotta hit
That's
twice.
But if it's just
completely
one
different.
foot
Didn't come
that's
off the
tapping
ground.
down,
Foot drag is not the same thing.
toe
It's not
drag.
I don't
two
even know
times.
what you're
I've got
talking
it
about,
two
Mike.
times.
If
This
it
is
drags
ridiculous.
and then it
Twice.
comes up and then drags again, and you get
Ooh.
2 separate puffs of the
Yes.
black little pebbles coming up.
2 drags.
That's 2 drags.
Yeah.
That's
Here's
what
the
I was
thing.
worried about.
I
That's
love
2
2
drags.
drags.
If
Yeah.
the Steelers do it, it should count as a touchdown, okay? Because
like that
first
rule.
half was just field goal, field goal, field goal. We had like 3 touchdowns taken back. It was a great catch by Pickens. That spiritually should count as a catch. And we need to have a rule in the NFL where spiritually something is a catch.
Okay, I don't think of football.
There's
and
priests on the sideline
spirituality.
sometimes. Why don't we have spiritual plays? I don't
There was
get
an
it.
immaculate reception. Once.
That's true. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
I want
Greg's right.
to
Like Pap was there.
address why Greg Cody is not here and why Greg Cody is mad at us. But I do wonder, Stugotz, because we lived this in South Florida. The fan base became so spoiled by Don Shula that what I remember of the Jimmy Johnson and Dave Wannstedt days that had a lot of 10-6s and 11-5s in them, one playoff victory in Seattle when Jimmy Johnson would win a playoff game here and there. What I remember after Shula is that the fan base had grown so spoiled with Dolphin winning that they assigned to those coaches mediocrity as a label for going 11-5 and 10-6. The reason I bring this up as it relates to the Steelers and Tomlin, I think the national perception on the Steelers is they're above average always. You don't want to play them, but there's no chance they win the title. And I wonder if Steeler fans land on Tomlin and say, I'm tired of being quote-unquote mediocre, even though it's not actually mediocre. Last year, it kind of was. I think they were 9-8, and they sort of stumble into the playoffs. And then when they get to the playoffs, you don't fear them at all. But if I give them just a little bit of offense, they end up becoming what I thought the Jets were going to be this year, with a little bit of offense, with a quarterback like Russell Wilson, he's an upgrade, and Mike Tomlin actually did what very few coaches do, where he sits the quarterback who's doing a little bit of winning because he wants more winning than that.
It's interesting because are you okay with the stability of having Mike Tomlin there, always having a winning season, getting to the playoffs, getting knocked out in the first round? Chris Sims tells me and Billy all the time that he doesn't want the Steelers in his playoffs because they get blown out first round, it's over. And Tomlin is 8-10 in the postseason. So I do wonder if Steeler fans are okay with having a guy like Tomlin who's good enough to get you to the playoffs, but doesn't appear good enough to get you to the Super Bowl on a consistent basis.
Well, he did win a Super Bowl, and they were at a Super Bowl that they lost. But, Jessica, what is the feeling of Tomlin? They've only had 3 coaches ever in Steelers history, and I do wonder. I know I saw in Miami people get tired of Jimmy Johnson and Wannstedt for not being Shula, and I do wonder if getting to the playoffs every year but not having a real chance is something that Steeler fans think of as beneath them.
I don't think Steelers fans this year, it's early in the season. I don't think they have no chance. I think that the last 2 weeks have shown you that the Steelers finally have a good passer in Russell Wilson. The play-action pass game hasn't looked as good since Ben Roethlisberger before he blew out his elbow. But I would say that, no, I think there's definitely mixed feelings about Tomlin. I think most fans really love him, and he's been a great head coach. And the biggest issue with the Steelers has been managing the offense after their 19-year franchise quarterback player got injured, was not as good, retired, and then they drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round, and that didn't work out. So, the quarterback issue has been the problem. The offense has been the problem. I think the defense has been really good. They've had Hall of Famers on this defense his entire time in Pittsburgh. And so, the playoff record stinks. I don't think anyone's happy with that. I don't think a single Steelers fan's we're content losing in the wild card round to the Browns or to the Bills or the Chiefs. But I think that, hiring Arthur Smith, getting a quarterback in there that can actually open up the vertical pass game has been a good sign that the Steelers are willing to make necessary changes to actually be competitive down the stretch.
Because sports fans don't like the aesthetics of how they perform, they've just written them off and say they don't have a chance. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are elite at forcing the other team to play the style of game they want. You highlighted some of those teams, Bills, Chiefs. In the playoffs, those are difficult games. If one or two things goes differently in the Bills game, maybe they hang tight there. I think they're elite at getting the other team to get sucked into the style that they're most suitable to win at. So I'm not one of these people that don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a chance in that conference. I really don't, especially given what we've seen from the Kansas City Chiefs and that offense, even though they're undefeated, showing that it has a little bit more limitations than previous. I like the Steelers in a matchup to at least cover a number and make that game close.
Also, really, really tough division. A division that Tomlin's won many, many times, and even in the last 10 years with, 2020 being a really weird season. Like, the Steelers have to play the Ravens twice every year. They have to play Joe Burrow twice every year. They have to play the Browns, which were better when they had Baker Mayfield, and they lost that playoff game, obviously, which I think was like a real sort of turning point for Steelers fans. You can't lose to the Browns in the playoffs. But it's a tough division, and I think their defense has been really, really good, and a lot of people want to see touchdowns and high-flying offense, and like Mike said, that's not really the game the Steelers are trying to play right now, but this season has looked a lot better in that regard.
I'm just shocked that you said a couple minutes ago that there's mixed feelings on Tomlin. I know of his playoff struggles, but I've just thought of him as one of the most beloved coaches in all of football. That's crazy.
He hasn't won a playoff game since 2016.
Yeah, but he had some bad offenses.
I know, but we're raving about Russell Wilson. He did it against the Giants and the Jets.
Most coaches that go 8 years without winning a playoff game don't get to keep their jobs, period. Like McDaniel won't. McDaniel will not keep his job if he goes 8 years without winning a playoff game. Like that is a tribute to how the Pittsburgh Steelers do business, that they believe in stability and they believe in leadership that is consistent. It's an unusual philosophy in sports.
I said mixed feelings, but I think most fans do really like Tomlin. So, yes, there is doubt about the playoff record. There is doubt about, why didn't we fire Matt Canada sooner? Steelers, what are we doing with that? But I think fans are feeling a lot better about the new GM. He's made some great moves, and I think that, overall, Tomlin is pretty well liked.
We're doing a great job of getting the state of Pennsylvania in the tent. Keep it up.
Yes, that's all we're trying to do.
You're not fooling me, Dan Le Batard.
Let's cover only sports in the swing states.
Tomlin talk today, huh?
Let's get also to this Greg Cody video. Chris, what can you tell me? You are back from doing debaucherous things in Key West. You apologized to the audience and to South Florida for our show's role in injuring all of the Dolphins. All of the Dolphins that we interviewed before the season got hurt before the halfway point of the season. Zach Sealer, who hadn't missed a game in a couple of years, got hurt in practice with a fractured orbital bone. Out of nowhere, he was the last one to get knocked out in terms of our haunted interviews.
That's crazy that happened in practice because, the week before this one, his helmet came off during a play and a fumble he recovered, I believe, and he was tackled without a helmet on, and he didn't fracture his orbital bone then, but in practice it happened somehow.
I've had, a roller coaster of emotions with this injury. When I first heard it, I'm like, oh, come on, you got to play. Poked in the eye, not a big deal. The more I really think about it, that sounds really painful. So the roller coaster's now back to me respecting the injury.
That's nice of you, yeah.
You're of the belief that if 300-pound Zach Sealer, who's a professional football player and hasn't missed a game in 2 years, misses a game with an eye poke, that he's being soft?
I'm just saying, I've gotten poked in the eye before. I missed 5 minutes of TV.
Right, but the roller coaster.
I mean, you guys should not be allowed to interview Dolphins players next year.
That's fair.
Anyone, really.
Who did
That's
you interview from the Heat? That's also something to keep an eye on.
Well,
this is
you know what's
situation.
a good thing to keep an eye on? When that ever runs, because everybody interviewed a bunch of people at the Heat, and I still haven't seen any of that video.
That's why we're not airing it. We don't want Bam to get hurt. It's actually a heady play by us.
Yeah.
The haunting, you're afraid that the curse is such that we
Jaime Jaquez, key players, okay?
And we never ran any of it.
Out of safety.
I haven't seen any of it. It's because our show is haunted. Thank you, Chris, for looking out for the local teams of all kinds. I am now told by video that we do not have the Greg Cody video where he complains about why he's not on the show today.
It's a slow burn. We'll have it in a minute.
This is good. This is good. Before we have on the vice presidential candidate, it's
Well, is he
good to
gonna
have
be
a
on? Are
bunch
we
of
sure about that?
technical issues. Yeah, no, I'm not sure about that is the short answer.
So Greg is we did Greg dirty because I did a little digging. His book comes out today. So on the day of the release of his book, we told him don't come in to promote the release of your book.
I need to get more information on this. Let's go to the video now of Greg Cody where he is promoting his own book, which is out today. So you can now get Back in My Day. He does more Back in My Days for profit over there than he does paid here to do Back in My Days. It's
bring
weird.
him in on a Tuesday. I mean,
It is
for crying out loud.
strange
Right.
that Greg Cody on the side creates another profit pattern for himself, doing the thing that he refuses to do here. When's the last time he did a Back in My Day here, a fresh Back in My Day? Has it been?
The recent fresh ones have been from the book. Yeah. So it's like an actual fresh one.
Right.
It's been a while.
Let's play this video of Greg Cody complaining about not being in today. He will be in tomorrow.
Seconds of dead air.
Just coughing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
This is all he wanted to do today.
Longest
anyway.
slow build ever. Here we go. All right, here we
Hello,
go.
everyone.
Greg,
I'm up.
Greg, I told you I couldn't see your face. Was it so hard?
Okay. Hey, everybody. You know what day it is? It's Back in My Day. It's Tuesday, October 29th. Drop date for the Back in My Day book. It's out today. You can hold it in your hands. You don't have to pre-order it like you have, and thanks to those who have, you can order it today and hold it in your hands. Go to Amazon, go to your local bookstore, whatever you have to do, it's out today. I was hoping, it's Tuesday, right? I was hoping to be on the Le Batard Show to be able to promote the book, but I couldn't because they had an excuse why I couldn't be on Tuesday. I had to be on Wednesday. Cockamamie excuse. They had Tim Walz on, the vice presidential candidate, okay? Not even a presidential candidate, but they bumped me, okay? Okay, they bumped me. So we're doing the best we can. We're recording our own professionally directed video here because what day is it? It's Back in My Day. That kind of thing.
Was that Jumpin' Charlie clackety
Yes, it
clacking
was.
on the
Classic
floor?
Charlie, yeah.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Over under on the age of a person who uses the word cockamamie. 100 over or under. That was a very slow video
For the people,
from Greg Cody.
for the audio people, you got to watch it because the lighting couldn't be worse. It's just
It's jaundiced.
it's a delight to look at.
The video is jaundiced.
Not Greg, the video.
No, all
Right,
of it.
yes,
Everything in the video, including the book. The book is the color of unbrushed teeth. Lucy, I don't believe that you and Jessica were here last week because for as much as we make fun of Greg Cody, Chris Cody hasn't fallen that far from the rotten tree. And now that he's back after 5 days of doing God knows what in Key West, I don't believe that he, Lucy, or Jessica are aware of the I-Team investigation that our show did that shames Chris Cody. Do you know anything about this, Lucy?
No, I do not. I don't live here, so I definitely wasn't here last week. So.
Okay, I don't know if Chris knows either, but please put a close-up on his face right now so that we can see the twitching begin. Jessica, you and I were talking just before the show, and you were saying that you often use that staircase that is in a new building that is a secret route where we thought we're the only ones who go and use that staircase, that there's no one else using it.
I thought so until a few months ago, this venti Starbucks cup showed up, and I've just been monitoring the progression of it getting more and more disgusting and moldy over the last few months. But you're right, Dan. I don't know anything about this. By I-Team, do you mean Magnum PI?
I do not mean, I mean Columbo. Columbo leads our investigative effort. Chris, you're a litterer. We have found an
People were tweeting me that all weekend, and I was just like, who saw me litter in the keys? Well, that is...
Wait, in the keys?
No, I didn't litter in the keys. I was just like thinking, did I? Because I was like, why am I getting a random tweet?
No, Chris, that's disgusting.
First of all, that's inside. That's not littering.
So it doesn't count.
Yeah,
littering
not littering.
inside doesn't
Has to be
count.
outside to be
You just
littering.
throw garbage anywhere inside. It doesn't.
No, first of all,
littering.
that actually, the story behind that was one day I was leaving and it was pouring. And I was like, okay, I don't want, I have a cup. So I put the cup down. And then a couple days later, I saw it started, growing something in it. And I was like, let's see where this goes. So now I'm just going to leave it here. And
You were doing a science
Yeah,
experiment
I was like,
inside
oh my-
the stairwell
I was
at
like-
our workplace?
I was staring at it. I was like, is that dirt? I'm like, oh, there's mold.
There was
growing
mold
here.
on a different cup. This isn't the cup that's got mold on it. I don't understand
Yeah, that one had
using the
mold.
staircase as a garbage
Well,
can.
there's no garbage down there. And it was raining.
And it's
Right.
inside.
That's not littering.
What does the rain have
Let's
to
look
do
at what's
with
the
it?
definition.
He is right about littering. You have to do it outside.
But it was there
Yes.
for
What?
several days,
Yeah.
days that it wasn't raining, but you refused to throw it away because you realized that there was mold growing
Yeah, I was like,
inside of it. And then science was your higher
let's
calling.
see where it goes.
Let's see where this takes
Who
us.
did you think was going to clean up after you?
I imagine somebody would clean that stairwell at some point.
Mean.
That staircase is disgusting.
Very dusty.
It's new.
Yeah.
We can't make that a littering mess, but I do want to talk about the general rules that are being applied here. Kent, put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Can you litter indoors? Because
You can't do it, man. I just did an image search on Google, and every single picture is people
An
littering
image
outside.
search?
Yeah, it's outside.
What'd you
It's an
image?
outdoor activity.
People
Yeah.
I wish Greg was here because I would like to ask Chris who raised you and then
My
interrogate
dad
Greg
is
about this.
Very I grew up. I don't litter outside. I
Right.
don't.
Then you don't litter.
I
right,
have not thrown something outside my window probably since I was 16.
Good boy.
And it was an egg.
Chris,
Ooh,
I'm not even kidding. I didn't know
dog?
anything about this one. I didn't know that was your Starbucks cup when I came in. That was purely chance. Because this thing, it's been so disgusting that I've started using a different stairwell and taking the long way out of the building because it's so gross.
I use that stairwell every day now to check up on it and see how's it going. You guys moved it, so now it's gone?
somebody kicked it over and then it made a spilled mess, and it was even more disgusting.
Who would do that?
Yes.
Who would kick that over?
I'm mortified
B.
by all of it. I think you guys are more feral than Wolverines. I think it doesn't make any sense to me that you guys would take a new staircase and fill it with garbage.
I'm looking at a definition here of litter. Trash, such as paper, cans, bottles, that is left lying in an open or public place.
Okay, go sit in the penalty box
The act
here.
of dropping
Just-
trash on the ground in a public place.
A public stairwell.
For ruining comedy.
I think Tony's better over you.
You've been off for 5 days.
To be determined.
And you
Damn
come
it,
back
man.
and you get back on the treadmill and you can't speak and you litter and you do science experiments in the disgusting
It's not
stairwell.
litter. I just read the
All right,
definition.
It's a
get out of
public
here.
space. It's a public stairwell.
Places.
That's a
It's
public
places.
space, Billy.
Yeah.
You know what?
That stairwell's public.
The public never gathers in that staircase.
This is a
I'm with
private
Chris.
building.
Yeah,
You know
for
what?
2 minutes. Yeah.
Fine. Semantics. You're not a litterer. You're just an unbearable slob. Whatever. Get out.
There.
In Chris's defense, I walked down that stairwell after the fact because that day we had a lot of people complaining, saying there's a lot of trash in that stairwell. It's not just that, which I guess someone has done video of all the trash that's in the stairwell, and now you're seeing all of the different things. So when you go out the door, exactly, there's a corner where people
Come
have just
on, man.
stacked
Come
cups,
on, man.
which are very clearly from this office as well.
That's really bad. The Elser treats us so well. This is a great new building. Why are we doing this?
It's hard to fathom that these are all things that are free because we've got an eating area where all the food is free, and the result is people just gorge the food and then dump the junk wherever it is that they want to that isn't a trash can. It's only us. This cannot be anyone else because it's a private stairwell. Like, it's only us using that. I can't believe we're this disgusting as a show.
I am speechless right now. I should have expected that it was us, but I'm still shocked. I'm sad. I'm disappointed. What should we do to Chris? I've got punished.
I've got an idea.
For what?
I think he should do a show where he has to spend the whole show picking up trash on the beach and do phone-ins from the beach. And we should
What?
put him in like an orange jumpsuit or something so that we make him a criminal. Like we make him a slob criminal and we punish and shame him publicly.
He didn't drop anything on the beach. He dropped it in a stairwell.
Understood,
I mean,
but the punishment would be to clean up the beach a little
You
bit.
should also clean up the stairwell and also fix the light bulb that's been flickering down there for the last few
Yeah,
months.
and there's a light bulb that's been flickering in my house too. If we're on the subject, that maybe
Okay,
he can
he-
go
should
fix.
go
this
fix
is not
that.
going to make
Yeah.
him
He
your
should clean-
handyman.
He should clean up the trash in all of our like private homes.
Yeah, he should cut my lawn.
Because he didn't litter in public, but he did leave trash in private.
That light feels like something out of a horror movie. The flickering light in the stairwell. It feels a bit haunted.
There's a
in there.
worse one. There's another stairwell that it's a lot darker and has a flickering light, which is the only source of light. At least this one's flickering, but there's other sources of light. That one, that's the only source of light. And sometimes weird music is playing
Where
in
is
the
this
stairwell. I don't know where it's coming from, whether it's above us or below us, but weird music is playing as the lights are flickering. And I said, you know what? This stairwell, not for me. Stop taking it.
Yeah, I've heard that music too. I'm pretty sure it's a 10-year-old girl singing who died in 1798. It's really
Or tinnitus.
It's really haunting. Lucy, how do you feel learning this about your colleagues? Like, I think there are times that you learn things about people and certain defining facts where you're like, think slightly less of you than I did before.
Why do you think I left?
Because Chris is a litterer who's not a litterer, who's just a slob.
By the way,
Yeah.
I saw like they showed the shot of that stairwell. There's a lot of from this office that's down there that isn't me.
I believe it is you, though. There's one with your name on it. So
Well, that's not
So
fair.
you think
I
you
mean,
think I'm willing to be like this one cup is me, but not like why would like you think this is shameful for
Well,
me?
the one cup that is you
Like,
has your
this
name
is-
on it. It'd
this
be
is
hard to deny.
This is child's play of shame. Like when you guys first were like, Chris is zoom in on, I was like, oh my
You're
God,
right.
what do they know?
This is
After
nothing.
the weekend I've had, I was like, what do they know? And this is what you guys have for me? I'm laughing.
Baby.
I'm cackling.
I agree with Chris there. I do believe that there's more than one person leaving trash in the
I don't
stairs from
use
this
like
office.
those brown cups I use here for water. I never have exited these places with those brown cups.
There was a Dunkin' Donuts cup that had green mold
Don't
on the
go to
corner
Dunkin'.
that people thought was either you or your dad.
It could be my dad.
I mean, what Chris is saying is you brought a knife to a gunfight. I mean.
Well, only because the person I'm fighting against can't be killed because they have no actual shame. Like what I'm describing here is a level of carelessness and inconsideration for others that would cause the median human being shame.
But it's also kind of like the Zodiac killer killed someone, and then there's a bunch of bodies around the one that Zodiac killer very clearly killed, and then the Zodiac killer's like, what, me? Why would you think I had anything to do with the other murders?
There's only one with your name on it. Like we can't put name on the Oreo cookies wrapper. I think they're all you. I don't believe that we have a slew of people here who are that kind of gross.
I mean,
We have some pretty gross people here.
Okay, maybe
Respectfully.
some pretty gross people, but not a slew of them. I do believe we have plenty.
I think we have a slew. I do.
Okay, you
have
guys
you ever
disagree
seen a
with me.
sink after a lunch around here, Dan?
They don't know how to clean up after themselves. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. It is like something that is between toddlers and sort of feral ferrets.
Why the rain? Why did the rain inspire you to leave the cup?
Because there was little liquid left in it. I don't want liquid getting in it. I was just done with it.
Oh my God.
Still no clarity on the
Cleared it up
rain.
for me.
No, I mean, it's raining. It's pouring out.
Right.
Old
It
man
didn't give
snoring.
off walking around with a cup.
Okay. Chris, if you're going to own it, just own
No,
it.
I-
You left the cup there.
No,
it's okay. I'm with you.
It was raining that day.
I'm with
though.
you.
I'm like, it's not a lie. Like
Okay.
that is what happened.
But
That
you
was-
didn't leave the cup there because of the rain. You just left the cup there because you left the cup
I've walked
there.
out with cups many a times, and I either bring it in my car or throw it away. I put it down because it was pouring.
Okay.
Like that is why I did it.
Why wouldn't you just turn around and throw it away in the office?
There's no garbage. That's a lot of stairs.
We
to
have
walk
garbage
up.
here.
No, I'm saying that's
We do
that's
have
like a
garbage.
floor and a
Right.
half.
He has to walk back up.
A floor and a half.
a
I
lot.
mean, that's a lot.
Up's a lot harder than down.
It is.
Yeah.
A floor and a half is a lot of stairs.
Now people know we work on
Yeah.
the first and a half floor.
Man, this is not like Do you guys? This isn't doing anything right now for me.
Right.
Like this.
You're not even sweating, right?
You guys are all. Everyone like Dan's just like I can't believe it's just like
The audience is mortified by you.
like 3 people tweeted, "Hey, go
now.
litter," or
Now
something.
everyone knows, and I'm telling them, bury Chris Cody. Stugotz, do you know anything about the Kill Tony podcast? Do you know the name Tony Hinchcliffe for any reason whatsoever?
I do not.
Okay, so there are a group of comedians. It's a rather large group that have been knighted by Joe Rogan and Cat Williams and others. Object to the level of fame and power that they have gotten because many people believe in the world of comedians that they have not earned through funny the top of the court jester rankings. Cat Williams is one of the few willing to actually put his name on it. Everyone else is kind of afraid of doing this to them because it's a powerful group of people, and Joe Rogan has assembled a monster power to basically become what Johnny Carson used to be on late night television. So very few people end up being critical of some of the stuff that's happening, even as it arrives at what felt like a modern day version of a Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden that Trump's entire crew now doesn't know whether to double down or totally back away from because it was racist. And at the center of the racism was Tony Hinchcliffe trying to do a comedic set when surrounded by something that is otherwise pretty hateful. And even RFK is walking away from that saying, wow, that was unfortunate doing that joke at Puerto Rico's expense. And Mike Ryan pointed out yesterday that many of these guys are opportunists and profiteers. There's a lane for Andrew Schultz. I remember when we started during the pandemic, Andrew Schultz was trying to reach out to figure out how to do some of the stuff he has now done very well, which is create a lane for his comedy that makes him sort of too dangerous for the mainstream. And now, next thing you know, he's laughing in Trump's face as Trump grants him an interview and says to Andrew Schultz's face, I'm basically a truthful person. And Andrew Schultz is just laughing at him. Mark Maron, who is one of the wise old voices in comedy and does a really good job of pointing out where anti-Semitism exists, writes on Twitter something that you have not seen a lot of comedians brave enough to do because this is a powerful group of comedians and they don't tend to attack in-house. He writes, the anti-woke flank of the new fascism is being driven almost exclusively by comics, my peers. Whether or not they are self-serving or true believers in the new fascism is unimportant. They are of the movement. Whether they see themselves as acolytes or just comics doesn't matter. Whether they're driven by the idea that what they are fighting for is a free speech issue or whether they are truly morally bankrupt racists doesn't matter. They are part of the public face of a fascist political movement that seeks to destroy the democratic idea. When comedians with podcasts have shameless, self-proclaimed white supremacists and fascists on their show to joke around like they're just entertainers or even just politicians, all it does is humanize and normalize fascism. When someone uses their platform for that reason, they are facilitating anti-American sentiment and promoting violent autocracy. Very few comedians are willing to do this in-house because of the fear that they have of other comedians. This is one of the few who has the kinds of credentials that nobody's going to really go after his intellect. It is a bit dangerous to war with Mark Maron because he has his own power and he's the OG. He was doing that stuff that they're doing now before all of them were doing it.
He's the KG vet?
Yeah,
I mean,
he started doing a podcast in his garage. It blew up. It had an IFC spinoff,
right,
which was kind of borrowing from the podcast and then scripted. Additionally, Mark Maron's bang on there. It's been my whole apprehension with this whole recent thing of even our show has been very culpable in it, putting these comedians on pedestals. If Mussolini were around today, he'd go on a podcast hosted by a fledgling comedian, and that comedian would then go from clubs to theaters. That's the grift. And playing to the right has opened up a whole new customer base. In fact, you invoke Schultz. Do you remember what Schultz was doing observationally at the start of COVID?
I remember that he had a stand-up special that other stand-ups didn't think was a special because it was very well written, but he was doing it off of a prompter, and it was like minutes at a time on Netflix.
To me, I was introduced to him with those IG videos when everybody was looking for content, when everybody was looking for a voice. He was kind of an equal opportunist, but really more observational humor. And then once, lockdown stopped and he started playing shows, he just veered more and more right. Even you, as you mentioned, well, he laughed in Trump's face. He loves that because the left has kind of seized on that. If you've seen his promos since, he's still playing to that new base that he's created. A lot of these, and I happen to think he's talented, but a lot of the comedians that have ascended during this time playing to this new right-wing audience, they're not the most talented people in the bunch. A lot of them have failed. Now, that's the story of stand-up comedy. Sometimes it takes 20 years for guys to break. Mark Maron was a guy that broke because of a podcast, and it wasn't because he played to a right-leaning base. But I do think that we need to be discerning here. They're looking to cultivate an audience and go from clubs to theaters to arenas. And it's all been fast-tracked.
They're all doing that, though. They have gotten to the arenas. They're long past clubs. Like this group of people, Joe Rogan has a power base in Austin, and I'm not kidding you when I say he is the new knighter of comedians. Other comedians look at the ones that he has knighted and are afraid to say what Cat Williams says, which is some form of those guys aren't as funny as the guys that I respect as funny, but they are the ones profiting now. And one of them is Hinchcliffe, who I don't know if you guys saw the reporting on this, but he actually took out, he was going to call Kamala Harris, see you next Tuesday. Like it was taken out of he had workshopped some of the stuff in a New York comedy club, and that was too over the line. And I think he complied on some stuff during the Tom Brady roast, which is a venue more appropriate for some of the stuff that he was trying. But in this case, he was edited. I can't even imagine what would have happened there if he hadn't edited that one and he had just thrown that in the middle of a rally that RFK is backing away from, saying, look, that was unfortunate that we did that kind of racism to Puerto Rico and Hispanics.
It's been an effective strategic marketing ploy by going to taste-making podcast and normalizing the conversation and, let me crack open a seltzer with the Nelk Boys. And it's just all part of their very effective strategy. How can it be fascism if we're all laughing along? This guy seems pretty cool. How can he be a fascist? He's just a stand-up comedian. How can he be allowing this? But if you put Stalin in a uniform in that day, if there were podcasts around, he'd be doing the same approach. And it's a strategy, by the way, that we're complicit to on the left side. The left side, they'll go and call her daddy. This is how you speak to specific bases. But there is something really effective about right-leaning truth tellers, independent thinkers on the right side in terms of normalizing that conversation. And Mark Maron totally nailed it on the head with.
I saw Jon Stewart had a conversation that he was having recently about when he realized that one of his shows was going to die at, I don't remember where it was. It was the early incarnation of one of his shows, and one of the first skits had Dave Attell come out as Hitler, holding a bagel and coming out to just do the talk show circuit. There's a skit here of Stalin or Mussolini just going on a podcast and like surrounded by commercial reads because of how we're normalizing some of this stuff.
Can you explain though, like what you mean by Kamala Harris going on Call Her Daddy to talk about women's reproductive rights is similar to any of the stuff that we're talking about?
Irrefutably, the strategy is the same. Let me go on a podcast and speak to a specific base, and that gives me direct access to an audience. You can certainly disagree with the message. I don't think the messages are anything similar. But no, the strategy in this whole new media world is where they would go on the evening news. And it's not to say that they're not still doing that. They're really focusing their energy on podcasts. And I would say the left is probably a little late to the party.
She's also going on 60 Minutes, though, and doing, like, mainstream media interviews.
Yeah, which I said. I don't understand why we're seizing on this. Like, yes, this is a campaign strategy of the 21st century. But what I'm saying is the conservatives saw this first, and they cornered the market on it, and they have the bigger podcast.
Next Tuesday is a giant day. It is, of course.
Deadline day.
That was not rehearsed, even though it sounded like it was. We've got NFL trade deadline day next week, and Dianna Russini is a senior NFL insider for The Athletic. Scoop City is the name of her very popular podcast. I want to play for her some of the sound, embarrassing sound, from Jermaine Illuminor, the tackle for the New York Giants. He said in a game before he allowed 7 tackles and 2 sacks, I guess only 2 of the sacks were his fault. TJ Watt had 3 and a strip sack as well. This is what Illuminor had to say before the game.
Collectively about this line and what, proving it to yourselves. Do you look at a matchup like this for you when you have, arguably the best defensive player in the NFL?
Oh, yeah.
How do you deal with it?
I love it. Shoot, I've been telling y'all, no one's confident guy in this locker room. And I think you can see that through my play this year. And so I love it. I want to be on the island with them all day.
Dianna, can you give me, and thank you for joining us, a history lesson here? Outside of Lawrence Taylor, there are a handful of these guys doing it now. Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and this human being. But I have to go back to Lawrence Taylor to find a guy who's so unblockable that he continually gets strip sacks. TJ Watt as a player historically is what as a defensive player?
The best player, the best Watt player. Right. I think he's better than his brother at this point. Obviously, JJ is respected all around the league, a future Hall of Famer. I think we're at a point where there's no question his brother's better. And he's got his support, because do you see JJ last night on Twitter giving his brother all that love after his brother once again is just winning games for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
I always love talking to people around the league about what they think about star players. Like, man, what would he look like in your system? And he's one of those players, probably along with Myles Garrett and Max Crosby, as just, they're just the dream. Those are the guys that you build your entire franchise around. So look, I can appreciate when a Giants player wants to at least show some confidence that, yeah, bring it on, let's do this. I wouldn't like it if he told the media there, like, yeah, I'm actually scared out of my mind. Our offensive line has been garbage for a century. But that's not what he did. It's just the receipts. They kill you.
Do you really think J.J. Watt thinks his brother is better than him? Like, he might say that publicly. He might put it out on social media. That's classic J.J. But in private moments, there is no way J.J. is telling anyone that T.J. is better than I was.
Oh, no. No. He's doing exactly what he needs to do. I wonder if he'd be different, though, if he wasn't in the media now. But... he's just like playing his brother off, trying to get him every award that he could possibly win, get him more money, I'm sure. But yeah, no, JJ Watt, there's no way JJ Watt thinks any human being is better than him.
At anything.
At anything. Making children, fixing the backyard,
playing an entire football game with an eagle on your shoulder pad.
Yeah.
Dianna, I saw after the game that Daniel Jones said that the strip sack was actually his fault because he was supposed to send the tight end in motion to chip and help out with the block there against Watt. So, I mean, I guess my question is like a macro one. Like, what do the Giants do with Daniel Jones now? What is Brian Daboll's hot seat status? Like, it's a pretty bad mistake to make in a season full of a lot of really bad mistakes.
I know, Jess. It's funny because I feel like we're seeing so much blame. People pointing blame when we don't normally see that, right? Like, or I feel like so many other teams are going, like, look at Jerry Jones. He's like, it's the coach's fault. It's the play calling. So I think that was Daniel Jones. Look, some of that was his fault, but I think that was also him taking the hit for something that wasn't entirely his fault. But look, just listen to Brian Daboll after the game. I mean, how many times did he mention that Daniel Jones just was not good enough? Usually the head coach is up there saying, we all got to be better. We all need to do more. But it is very evident that the New York Giants are out on Daniel Jones. Obviously, this was a decision this regime made. Obviously, Joe Schoen, the general manager, and Brian Daboll signed off on. They're the ones who made this happen. The same people that moved on from Saquon Barkley. So they chose Daniel Jones over paying Saquon, and now they're living in it. And we know that they weren't sold on Daniel Jones in the offseason because we saw it on Hard Knocks. We saw that they try to move up to get a quarterback. So now I feel like they're just living in this hell of, we don't really want this guy. He's tough as hell. He is. He's tough. I mean, that is one thing people always tell me about him is just he stands in the pocket and he's just getting slammed around every week, but he's still making mistakes that are costing them games and he's not able to take care of the football.
In my lifetime, Diane, I think there are only 5 that I have done this with watching football. I believe I thought on late drives, Lawrence Taylor's about to do something. I have thought of Reggie White is about to do something. Defensive players. Ed Reed is about to do something late in the game. Aaron Donald is about to do something. And Mike Ryan, late in that game last night, is saying, there will be some time here where the Giants have the football and TJ Watt is going to touch it. TJ Watt is going to get his hands on the football here. It's just such a rare thing with defensive players. I can count them on one hand.
Yeah, there's just not that many that can do that and completely change the direction of where it's going. We obviously always point to the offensive players being the playmakers, the one to do it. But when you're getting double, triple teamed every single game, because I think that's another element to this that you forget when you're watching these guys. They're already dealing with more than what the normal defender has to deal with. Every team is game planning against them. So obviously that is unique and special. And I don't know who's going to be the Bill Belichick to TJ, the way Bill Belichick talks about Ed Reed. We'll figure out who's going to be that coach one day who just goes on and just seems pretty in love with the guy. But I can tell you in Pittsburgh, he's certainly beloved by that coaching staff.
So right on time, everyone last week called the Ravens the best team in the NFL. So right on cue, they lose to the Cleveland Browns. I'm curious, Dianna, if you've touched base with your Cleveland Browns sources to see how they're feeling about things. Now, they didn't make just the Watson change. Their hand was forced there. Ken Dorsey took over play calling to coincide with the move to Jameis. And I'm curious what they're feeling about this season. Is it still pack it in, or do they actually think that they can go on a Flacco-like run now with Jameis?
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns are alive. They are back. They needed this win. I can't remember the last time the Cleveland Browns as an organization needed something to fall their way more than this game did. Not, from ownership all the way down to the players in the locker room. How many times did we talk about this on the show? Like, everyone knows what the problem is. We all know. We understand the contract that they gave Deshaun Watson, but this team looked miserable on the field every week for a variety of reasons. So the fact that Jameis was able to spark some life, play calling's been changed over to Ken Dorsey, which is allowing Kevin Stefanski to do more with the entire team and sort of get his hands dirty in making sure that different parts of the game are better. The offensive line, that was the best protection I've seen from Cleveland all year. That's been their Achilles heel without a doubt outside of Deshaun. So
well,
the
he
fact
holds
that
the ball too long, though, too. Like, it's not just offensive line. Deshaun Watson, isn't he guilty of holding the ball longer than any quarterback in the league as the whole sport moves to getting rid of it quickly?
He does, but there wasn't a lot being done to help him in that situation, too, in terms of protecting him. And I think that's where this was becoming such a big problem, because the offensive line wasn't doing what Stefanski wanted, knowing Deshaun Watson was going to be holding the ball so much. Now, Jameis isn't much better at it either. If you saw, there were certain times where you're like, Jameis, throw the ball. What are we doing? What are we doing? But the fact that he was able to create this much offense, and guys, it's one of these things where, when you're around teams and you hear about leadership, I never really got the feeling being around the Cleveland Browns that Jameis was this outstanding leader that was giving and supplying answers to this locker room. He was loud. I don't necessarily believe that everyone was signed off in following him. So I think getting a win like this for Jameis, I think they now are going to start following more. He needed to back up a lot of those words. So I just think overall, for what we all saw on television, the producer of Scoop City, she is the wife of a player on the Browns, and she told me that was the first time she left the game and sat in bumper-to-bumper traffic. And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, think about it. We're so bad. Everyone leaves early. She's like, people stay to the end of the game, right? And if that doesn't tell you just how great things are in Cleveland, they're psyched about traffic because that means maybe they're winning.
I will say this again, by the way, because the stats are jarring, right, given the contract that Deshaun Watson has. That's the first time the Browns have scored 20 points this season. And he threw for more than 300 yards. Jameis Winston did. Deshaun Watson hasn't done that in a Browns uniform.
Right.
It's a
no
bit,
interceptions as well.
It's a bit stunning. He had a fumble because he does hold the ball too long. He had a fumble that could have cost them the game because of where it is that it happened. Dianna, where are you on what the fallout should be with the way that Chicago Bears game ended?
In terms of how do you defend the Hail Mary that way? I mean, to me, when you're
What was that? What just happened?
Hail
there?
Mary.
What just happened? Yeah. Well, not just what should be the fallout? I hear people talking about firing people.
It's ridiculous.
It's
never going to happen again. It's a Hail Mary. It was a lucky play.
That's how Edey Vedder would say.
Yeah. Look, so I think one of the things about that, and I did that on Sunday where I was just reaching out to people around the league to just try to get an idea of like what happens in preparation on a football team. How much are you actually practicing defending that? And I guess a lot. That's what I discovered. I didn't realize that this is like part of things that you do during training camp. And we're seeing Hail Marys, pretty frequent this season, last season. So this isn't that weird or abnormal for the Chicago Bears to see. It's not some trick play that, Dan Quinn or Cliff Kingsbury stole from some high school varsity football team in Boston. This is a play that you are expected to know and even understand how to defend it from early years of playing football. So the fact that wasn't executed well, the fact that they didn't call a timeout, the fact that they didn't rush more than 3, there are so many parts of that are being shown to teams around the league, or at least teams are showing it. As, hey, don't do this. Don't do it this way. So they went from being a team that was close to winning to now being the poster of what not to do.
Dianna, where do you stand on the 1 foot double tapping versus 2 feet down versus
Good
one
question.
knee is 2 feet versus one butt cheek is 2 feet versus one elbow is 2 feet debate?
So dumb. That was so dumb. I can't wait for the offseason, actually. I normally hang out outside the competition committee meetings because what you do is you just stand out there and you wait for them to come out and you bug the people on the committee. Mike Tomlin's one of them. And you just try to find out what they're discussing. They are going to be discussing that. There is like if I had a guess, and I want to see how this is going to be sort of taken care of, because how is that not a touchdown? I mean, that was so clear. And the fact that left foot, right foot, that, in my opinion, that they need to change that rule.
I also don't understand how George Pickens gets thrown 15 yards out of the end zone before his other foot goes down, basically. Like, his first foot hit the paint, and somehow he can't get another one down before he's out of the back of the end zone.
Billy, next time the Steelers play, don't get distracted by any other parts of the game. Just watch George Pickens. He's doing weird things all the time. Like, in piles, after he gets tackled. I noticed it more last night than ever, where I'm like, wait, why? How did his leg do that? I think he just plays weird, but he makes plays, and he's obviously become the most.
I don't think that's
great
good,
point.
Dianna. I don't think that's good analysis.
No, it is.
That
No, it's
Pickens
100%
just plays
accurate.
weird.
It's the only explanation I have for him not putting that other foot down. What are we doing? Put the other foot down. What is this?
Okay, so this is a real thing. I think some athletes, they're not as clean with their bodies when they're in that moment, when they're dealing with pressure, literal pressure, and trying to make plays. Some are just flimsy and floppy and Gumby like. Truthfully, I was like that as a soccer player. And you can get away with things like that at times, and it makes plays happen. But like we saw last night, that sloppiness hurt him because obviously having just 1 foot do it, which think about how hard that is. Like, try doing that today when you're walking. Just double hop on 1 foot. That's hard. I don't think that it's easier to put your other foot down. I don't understand why he didn't do that. But the takeaway is he plays weird, but he's damn good.
He also just jumped up and elbow dropped someone trying to get over them on a tackle. Did you see that?
Weird player.
Yeah, I did see that. How was that not called? What was that?
He just does crazy things out there.
That's
Pickens.
It was a bit of. It was The Rock.
He didn't even.
It's The Rock's finishing move.
He didn't even
This
have
is
to
exactly
jump
what
out.
It's what I'm saying. You guys think I'm acting nuts. He plays weird.
Yeah, he does. Dianna, we were discussing earlier, Chris left a coffee cup in a stairwell, and I'm wondering, do you think it is littering if you do it inside?
Was there coffee in it?
A little bit.
Yeah, and then
If it makes a difference, it's tea, not coffee.
Okay,
Yeah.
it got kicked over, and now there's brown juice all over the
Because I
stairs.
maintain you can only litter outside. That's it.
It was also, to be fair, it was there because it was raining 2 weeks ago,
Right, it was
and he
raining.
didn't want
Boring.
the cup
Good
to
that you're
get
being
wet.
fair.
Yeah,
It's
and then
good.
he
It's
came
good.
back
Fairness
and he
is
all the
saw
facts.
something
Yes.
growing,
Always
so he
fair.
wanted it to be a
Always
science
fair,
experiment.
Billy Gill.
Yeah.
That's right.
Science.
So essentially, it was like there was no garbage can inside, and he was too lazy to go find one, so he just put it on the stairs.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
that's disgusting.
raining. Yes, it is disgusting.
Yeah, but-
It,
Yeah.
and it was
By the
raining.
way, why is there so much litter in that stairwell?
Yes,
Good question.
Exactly right.
Mm.
Because I
So
I'm
it
going to
is
get to the
litter.
bottom of this.
The litter is outside. It's not in the stairwell.
I employ an assortment of savages. Is what the problem is. People who have not been taught anything.
There's also a church here.
So I have a question for you. The other
What?
day I was driving and I was chewing gum and I didn't want to chew the gum anymore. I was about to like sip my coffee or something, so I wanted to spit it out and I didn't have anything to put it in, but I didn't want to put it in the console. And I just had to make a decision. Do I open the window and throw out the gum? Or do I just stick it on the side of my door until I get to?
You can't do gum because you can harm birds and stuff with gum. But I'm willing to make some exceptions for biodegradable things that feed animals that don't qualify for me as littering. I'm willing to make some. If you take a piece of a banana, not the peel necessarily, but a piece of a banana and throw it in the grass, I think of it as less littering than other
Thank
kinds
you
of
for going
littering.
out on that limb, Dan.
Really? That's how you justify
Pretty
it?
brave of you. Yeah.
You need to be careful with the banana peel. This is the true story. I was
You
walking
can slip
with my
on
son.
it. O'Doyle rules.
My 2-year-old son slipped on a banana peel. I'm like,
Right.
no, that doesn't really happen, but it did. So you have to be careful. But what about like I've done this before where I'm peeling an orange in the car?
Mm-hmm.
Is the peel? Is that fair?
I think that's less. I think that's more dangerous than the pulp.
It happened to me leaving the train
No way.
4 months ago.
How do you know?
We talked about it. I
Are you
slid
the guy
on
from
it.
Tony's story?
I was like, well, how
Or the
about
foot
this?
guy in Kristen's story.
It's
Kirsten's
actually
story.
a thing.
I have
What do
one
you
more.
think
Sorry, Diana. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I have one more Steelers question before we move on. The
we're
Steelers
talking
special teams coordinator, Danny Smith,
litter.
he's having a moment this year, and I wanted to nominate this sound for the club. This was him last week at a press conference.
I'm cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
That was good.
So he's like beloved in the league for years, even before he was in Pittsburgh. Everyone loves Danny. Like he's all energy. He's obviously, from what you've seen, what you heard, he's older, cut from a different cloth. But he has that unique ability. But by the way, they're winning on special teams. That's what makes him even better, is the fact that unit is become really successful this season. I mean, they're always decent, but this year they're really good. And he's just one of those. Do you see him on the sideline? How many special teams coordinators are standing next to the head coach as much as you see Danny? Right? He's in it. He could be the head coach sometimes, the way he behaves on the sideline. He's so in on every single play. I think that's that juice that the guy's like.
Chewing his gum and going, ha 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 ha.
You left us on a cliffhanger there, Diana, and we don't know what you did with your gum. I have a suggestion for you if you'd want it, because straight gum that you step on has somewhat become an endangered species in my life. Like, I used to step on a lot more gum than I do now. It just doesn't happen anymore. So I don't know what you did with yours, but I have an idea of what you can do with it in the future if you're in this situation again.
Please share.
I was thinking, so if you were getting out of your car, you could either, you said put it on the side of your car, or you could spit on the floor. What if you put it on your tire? Because it doesn't really matter if it's on your tire, right? And then no one will step on it. You'll just drive over it, and it just sticks to your tire. Who cares?
My thing is, where do you put it when you're in the car, though? Because that's my issue, right? You're driving. I'm not pulling over to throw my gum out. So where can I put my gum?
That happens to me on planes. I keep the wrapper, though, like inside my pocket just in case. But I don't know what kind of magic trick it is with gum. It never fits back in the wrapper when you go to spit it out. The wrapper's always too small for the ball of gum.
What do you think the most common thing is that people throw out their window when they're driving?
Boogers.
Cigarettes.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Has gum you step on become an endangered species at Le Batard Show? Among the results from Sunday, Dianna.
I just really need to know what you did with the gum for
Yes,
your
thank you.
The most interesting
Finally.
one was what? The most interesting of the results from Sundays. I'm just going to go ahead and segue. Once Billy gets to boogers, I
Right.
decide to go a different direction.
She was
Generally.
telling a gum story.
That's real.
Okay. Most interesting result from Sunday was blank. You only get to pick one.
Billy, I swallowed the gum just for your.
Oh,
for your
wow.
knowledge.
Wow,
You'll see it in
dangerous.
7 years.
Yeah, dangerous.
Like Witty.
To the Commanders, just the fashion that they won in, the way they did it, that's what that team's been about. It just every year we see it. There's a team that where the breaks fall their way, and they just have something special about them. And I can't believe it's Washington. I usually it just seems like the gods skip over that team, and now they're all in. So the fact that they were able to win that way, and just that moment, and seeing what that stadium looked like, seeing what the sideline looked like. And to me, my biggest observation as just someone watching it on television, just the fact that their quarterback was so even keeled about it. I know he's got that cool California laid backness about him, but I think that to me, when you can show poise and almost calm in the high moments, you're going to be able to do that in the low ones. And so I think to me that was such a win from just the way he was carrying himself and the way he was talking around about the play. Because how could you not go nuts after that? I mean, every person lost their mind watching that game, whether they cared or not, and just because of the fashion in which they won. And so the fact that the man that threw that ball and completed it and won the game for the team was just acting like it was just a normal run-of-the-mill day, I think that's just nothing but great news for this team.
I saw a ton of investigative journalism being done about the amount of Uncrustables that are consumed by the people in the NFL.
So good.
Love those.
80,000 Uncrustables a year.
Like a
What?
Sunday
The Broncos
after Valhalla.
are 700 a week. 700 a
Wow.
week the Broncos shove in their face. You have kids, Dianna. Are you shoving Uncrustables in their maws?
Yeah, I am. I think teams use them the same way parents do. It's just easy. They're made already. They're wrapped. I just found out they're not healthy, so I'm a little upset about that. But they get the job done. Peanut butter and jelly, classic.
It is a favorite around here.
What are the Saints doing? Only 50. I mean, jeez.
That graphic was actually predictive analysis for the Thursday Nighter 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So the
Broncos at
Athletic
top
did
of the
that. Jason Jenks is the writer, and he did that story. And on our internal communication space at the Athletic, you can see what everyone's working on. And I remember being like, what is that story going to be? And Jason, I love Jason. He's great. He's a good writer. He's creative. I'm like, dud. We'll see what that story is. That thing comes out. That's probably the best story the Athletic has done in the last 6 months. Everyone's talking about it. So it just goes to... It was such a moment of, man, you're just out here digging on trying to find out what's going on with ownership in the New York Jets and the New York Giants building. What direction are these people going? Readers don't care. They want to know about what the guys are eating.
That's right.
I need to chill out and start
That is
tapping into
correct.
more of those fun stories. You know, Dan?
You thought it was a dud. Can you explain to me what the Jordan Love injury was? I haven't quite seen what happened there, where he's walking around and then he just collapses on the sideline.
Yeah, so obviously you know that he dealt with that knee injury earlier in the season. So the fear was that he re-injured it, but the good news out of it, it was not. It was the knee. So good news for the Green Bay Packers and good news for the Green Bay Packers as a whole with trading for Malik Willis with the Tennessee Titans, a trade that I don't really think any of us were going, wow, that's the move of the century. In fact, I think most of us on the other side most of it were looking at the other way going, you think? You sure? Because we saw Malik in Tennessee and it wasn't that great. Well, that may go down by the end of the year as the best move made this last year to supply some depth and obviously some answers for the Packers, knowing that Jordan's knee isn't 100% no matter what, because he just hasn't had time to heal.
Dianna, is Mike McCarthy going to make it this season, or will he be back next season? What do you think's going to happen there?
You think there's a chance he's coming back?
I'm asking
Is
you.
he going to make it the season?
Know.
How soon? And where's Belichick going to end up?
Oh, okay. So Mike McCarthy will make it through the season, and I think it's because that's just Jerry's way. Jerry said it to my face 2 weeks ago. I'm not doing that. I don't believe in it. Could he change his mind? I mean, John Mara the other day said Joe Shane and Brian Dable are safe. I mean, I've seen The Godfather 2. I know The Kiss of Death. And by the way, Mara's done this before, right? He did it with Joe Judge. He did it with Ben McAdoo. He's come out and been like, nope, we're sticking with these people. And 2, 4, 6 weeks later, they fire these guys. To say that your head coach and GM are safe before it's even Halloween is ridiculous. I think that was a wild move by the Giants. And Jerry hasn't said a word about Mike's future. It's basically just been go perform, AKA, you're a lame duck coach. You haven't gotten a new deal for a reason because you need to go win a Super Bowl. And by the way, this Dallas Cowboys team is running the ball and even defending the ground game, I don't see that happening.
What happened with Anthony Richardson? Was he tired?
He was sleepy. Man, that one's a hard one because I've never seen that before. And I think the reaction to it has been pretty wild. Even my co-host Chase Daniel was like, lie, you idiot, lie. Why would you ever tell the media you're tired? And I understand that. And look, today I'm actually expecting it in a few minutes here. They're meeting about discussing a change at quarterback because obviously we know Joe Flacco's there. So I look at it like this. You're Anthony Richardson. You've got the owner, you've got the GM, the head coach, you got teammates all believing in you and confident that you're the guy. They love him in Indy. But you also have a weapon on your team that I know probably 15 other teams would love to have him on their roster, and that's Joe Flacco. So to give any room, any space to allow Joe to take over your job, to me is just dumb and not appreciating the moment and not appreciating this opportunity that you're getting to be the guy. I think that was just I hope that's a really good learning experience for him, but that's got to be a tough situation, I believe, to sell in the locker room, especially to your offensive linemen, guys that are just putting their bodies on the line every single day to protect you, but you're going to take a play out because you got to catch your breath. That's a tough one.
If Aaron Rodgers wanted to play, sorry to cut you off, if he wants to play next season, how many teams would be interested in signing Aaron Rodgers?
It's a good question. It's funny. My instinct right there was going to be like non-zero, but that's not that's not the truth. Because look, even Tom Brady didn't have a great market, and Tom was coming off. Obviously there was a fall off there at the end of the season with him, or his last few years in New England. And it obviously was not working, but there was definitely people poking around in Brady's market, but everyone expected that to be way more robust than it was. So. Yeah, I guess my instinct on it would be not that many, but there's always that one owner, that one coach who will go, well, the Jets never know what they're doing. They messed that up. I still believe in him. He's a 4-time MVP. It's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still probably the smartest football mind on any field that you put him on. It's just unfortunate. To me, the question, Stu, is I'm asking it, but I actually kind of think I know the answer is he coming back next year? Why would Aaron Rodgers come back next year?
Because this is not the way he wants to end his career. That would be my only guess, and I think he will come back next year.
It's not going to get better after this.
Well,
I think that ship has sailed. I think he's fine with going, this didn't work. I mean, how much longer can he do this? How much longer can he deal with ownership and the carousel of coaches? And he's going to have to deal with a whole new coaching staff, most likely a new GM. And try to find another way to go through this again. I don't know. If he comes back, then he must love pain.
Scoop City is the name of the podcast. She's the senior NFL insider for The Athletic. She'll be with us the entirety of the season. Thank you, Dianna. Good talking to you. Good seeing you again, as always.
Thanks, guys.
Stugotz, I believe that you alleged last night that last night was a baseball night for you. Mm-hmm. It was not a football night because you were not interested in watching the now 6-2 Steelers against the Giants. Unfortunately, and this bums me out because I wanted to see the entirety of a tense, dramatic series. I wanted New York's heart to be crushed in the most dramatic of fashions, not swept away very quickly. Right now on Netflix, Meadowlark Media has one of the top 10 things on Netflix, with the only time in sports where a team has rallied from a 3-0 deficit. It was against the Yankees. It was the 2004 Boston Red Sox. Now the Yankees find themselves down 3-0 against the Dodgers. Nobody but Soto has done anything in the World Series for the Yankees. Their offense, this is how they're
Verdugo hit a home run last night.
Okay, very little has been done outside. It's not an important
Fat Joe
correction.
performed last night also,
yes, he did. I like that. Well, you say for some reason. I like that Ice Cube entrance at Dodger Stadium. Did you not? Oh, what's that sound? What's that sound? You didn't like the Ice Cube entrance?
It's fine for your demographic. Not mine.
Ice Cube wasn't standing all over the mound, though. The grounds crew had to be freaking out about that. Fat Joe was like tap dancing on that mound before the game started.
Yeah, and Tim's rude question. Do we think Fat Joe was the first choice?
Jay-Z was clearly the first choice.
Jay-Z would have been the first choice, making the Yankee cap more famous than the Yankees did. My demo is the only one that likes Ice Cube coming out at Dodger Stadium.
Well, Verdugo liked it. He was jumping around. He was excited. We were worried that Verdugo was going to have a big game too, and it was going to be Ice Cube's fault, right? Is that not what everybody was thinking?
No.
I saw what are you talking about? I saw it all over the interwebs. He was dancing as Ice Cube was singing. There was talk, there was scuttlebutt around the baseball communities that maybe Ice Cube coming out was going to have the opposite effect that it was intended to because of how into it Verdugo was. It ended up being, not a big deal. Verdugo didn't have a big game. Yesterday he had a better game. But I think people were also talking about the Ice Cube curse because Shohei Ohtani got injured to the extent that yesterday he was in a sling in the introductions. Now, he still played, but he was in a sling. Mm-hmm. Something or nothing.
Always a good... Always a good game to play, something or nothing. But if you're in a sling, you're showing off to everybody that you're in a sling.
You are. You're telling everyone you're hurt. He's batting .091 in the World Series. Best player in the world.
And he's still great, and it can happen over a 3-game stretch.
And they don't
1 for 10
not
over
to him.
And they don't need him to win the World Series. They don't need him to win the World Series, and now there's talk that they're just going to go and get Juan Soto also.
Yes, that's right.
Here's the thing that I don't understand, Dan, because I'm like you. I don't like to see the Yankees succeed. I hate the Yankees. I'll even say I hate the Yankees. Growing up, I did not like the Yankees. They would just go out and they'd buy championships, and they were in the World Series every single year. And it was always Bond. It was like the Yankee way, this, and they just outspend everyone. And here's the problem, is that the Dodgers are the exact same thing. So I find it hard to root for the Dodgers over the Yankees. However, I still hate the Yankees because I hated them as a little boy, and I'm not going to grow out of that. I'm always going to hate the Yankees, even though the Dodgers are just as bad as the Yankees, and the Mets are worse than all of them, except they're not paying the right people, and it's not working out for the Mets. They're literally paying, I think, more money for people to play for other teams presently than they are for people playing for their own team. It's wild.
It did work out. They went to the NLCS.
They did not. No. When you're spending $300 million a year on payroll, you're not the cute little, but we made it to the NLCS. This is a big
Chris
thing.
Cody.
No, that's not that. When you spend $300 million a year, you need to go further than we made it to the NLCS. Unfortunately, Stugotz, that's what your loser fan base has become accustomed to. Is this was a great season?
Ouch.
We just made it to the NLCS. We're the Mets. Look at us. Go get them, Tiger. But that's not how it works. When you're spending that much money, you need to win. You're not paying for Justin Verlander to pitch for other teams. You're not paying for Max Scherzer to go win a World Series on other teams. Like, that's not what you spend $300 million for. Steve Cohen needs to get it together.
Those 2 weeks, though, what a nice little story it was.
I've watched all the games this series, and I don't know why I thought it was fixed, but we're still getting balls and strikes wrong. Because that was a bummer. You have Juan Soto on deck representing the tying run, and Torres gets called out on a ball.
On a terrible call. You don't get to Soto, which is what you want to see.
I had leaned up from my bed. I was like, okay, here we go. This is the moment. Yankees, Dodgers, Juan Soto representing tying run at the dish. This is great. And then I was like, what the hell was that? That was at his chin.
Yeah.
This series has been an utter disaster for the Yankees. I don't know how you do it, but I also don't know how you keep Aaron Boone after he gets you to a World Series, but he makes the boneheaded Aaron Boone. I tried to warn you guys about Aaron Boone 3 years ago when I was in Detroit, and I said you should have fired him then, and no one listened to me. And now look what's happening,
They're
Yankees
in the
fans.
World Series.
Look, yeah, they're in the World Series, and he cost them. They don't have the starting pitching. You need Garrett Cole to win you the Garrett Cole games, and he's taking Garrett Cole out with 85 pitches,
It's such a
which
great
is
point.
an absurdity.
Yep.
Aaron Judge, you can't expect to carry your team the entire postseason, and he hasn't done anything in the World Series so far. And Giancarlo Stanton, who at a point had like 5 straight hits as home runs, obviously that's not a pace that you're going to keep up with. He doesn't know how to run. I don't understand the fundamentals and the lack of fundamentals on this Yankees team. He's just slow to begin with.
Worst secondary lead
They
I've
have
ever seen.
had base running issues the entire season, but the way that he got thrown out yesterday is like unfathomable. How he slid almost like halfway between third and home for some reason. He's slow as molasses. I don't understand this team.
They're a bunch of keg softball players, and they fool their poor old announcer, John Sterling, who's calling
He's
the
another
last 2
one.
games.
He's
Let's
another
play the
one.
sound. Just shut up for a second.
And the breaking ball, there it goes. Deep left center field, and Teoscar is there to make the catch. Oh, did I get fooled on that? What with that swing and the ball majestically going to left field, Susan, I actually thought it was going to be out, and it wasn't close.
He quit on this team earlier this season.
Yes, he did.
And then they just like, yeah, sure. The guy think he's Mac Brown. Like, what are we doing here? Guy says straight up like retired in the middle of the season, and then everyone's like panicked because like when like 80 whatever year old he is just retires, like, oh no. Like, this isn't good. They're like, no, he's in perfect health. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we're just moving on. And they're like, well, we're going to go to the World Series. Like, hey, I'm back, Jack. And it's like, no, you're not. Quitter.
We have the state champion defensive coordinator for Mankato West High School with us, Stugotz.
We finally have a coach on the show.
Yes. Do you prefer Tim Walz with us? Do you prefer governor or coach? What should I be calling you during this?
Coach, that's the lead I want. You know, I don't get any help for that. You come with governor or candidate, everybody beats on you, but defensive coordinator, they leave you alone. But
Okay.
Good to be with you guys.
Thank you for being on with us. We have politics questions and sports questions, but I want to hear about the legendary story of you lighting up your offensive coordinator because he was running too many trick plays.
Yeah, and this guy was good. Guy's name was Tom Boone, and he was doing things that like irritated me, like passing and getting yardage. And you know, I'm a 6-0 guy, you know, the old school thing or whatever. And this guy continued to score, and I said, you know, look, part of this is pace of the game. You know, we can control the game, keep my defense, you know, on the sideline a little bit here, all that, and not this guy. So that was his philosophy, to just score every time, and kind of fun.
Now, keep in mind, he's joining us on very little sleep from a hotel room in Georgia here. So I don't know how much sports he's paying attention to, but I just want to show you a statue here that was revealed recently and give you a multiple choice question. I want to ask you, is this, well, there's a hint on the front there. Is this Lawrence Fishburne, Antoine Walker, Dwayne Wade, Kelsey Grammer, or Dana White? Who do you have this statue? I think we gave it away with the uniform.
You did, but when I saw the Lawrence Fishburne, I said, man, that is Lawrence. That is a good one. Look, how gracious was D. Wade, though, about this to the sculptor, because this is pretty horrific. I mean, this is a Lucille Ball type, the Lucille Ball statue thing. So it's horrific, but D. Wade, what a class act. He's like, no, this is really nice. I'm grateful. And yeah, I don't know how they get that wrong. Wouldn't you think they would show it to everybody first and have people like?
No, he was very involved in it. He was there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You would have no evidence in the statue, but evidently he went 3 or 4 times to be with them, and even measured like the length from the nose to the lip and everything. Yeah,
he's even more gracious, or he just didn't care. I don't know which one.
Didn't care.
So,
Yes.
No.
He didn't care.
I do have. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, he's got a statue. That's got to be pretty cool, right? You know, and I was in Philly the other day, and honest to God, and I earned it because I ran a 5K to it, no lie, to the Rocky statue, you know, up the stairs with both arms up. It was cooler than I thought it would be. It was really cool. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Dan.
That's all right. Thank you. I do appreciate your time. I do have some questions in politics. I'd like to know some of what your inner monologue was during the debate when Vance refused to say that Trump had lost the election.
Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, we're 85 minutes into this thing, and it kind of seems like that was the lead. Do you believe in democracy? Are you going to honor the vote? Which truly isn't all that political. It's just kind of standard operation. And just on this, my team was very clear to me. They said, don't ask a direct question, because you don't know the answer. It puts you in a bad spot in a debate. And of course, I disregarded what I should have done was listen. But in that case, it worked because just asking him the question, and I guess I thought he would answer it. And it took a couple of weeks. He did eventually answer it. And he said, no, he didn't lose the election. Donald Trump did not lose that election. So I guess he could have done it that night, but obviously he had a little bit of inner monologue going too about how do I answer this? I was kind of speaking to, 340 million people. I think he might've been speaking to one. So that's a little bit, a little more challenging.
Do you regret at all not bringing up during that debate that he, your opponent, had once said of Trump that he might be America's Hitler?
Well, I think, like a game does, you go back over it again, how you would do this. And I was very clear. I know my skill set, strengths and weaknesses, and debating. One I kind of worried about. I say this because as a teacher and a coach, I'm trained to answer the questions. If you're good at debate, you don't answer the questions. You just spin somewhere else. And that one I thought about, but it almost gets to the point where some of this stuff becomes unbelievable to people, even though it's true. And it like takes away some of the punch from it. But yeah, it's not that I didn't know that part and I'd actually thought about it. But, after we saw this last weekend, I think that spoke for itself. I probably didn't have to say it.
Coach, rank the Rockies for me. Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4. No one saw Rocky 5. Go ahead.
You're right. I didn't see Rocky 5.
Well, why would you?
Yeah. Well, Cold War stuff with, with the Russians was something, but don't you have to go with the original?
No.
Don't you have to go? No. We didn't know what was coming. No. I mean, I don't.
Well, Rocky loses there.
Quit badgering the man.
Spoiler alert.
I am. I just want to explain this to him because he's a busy man. Rocky loses in the original Rocky, and I don't like Rocky losing. So therefore, for me, it is Rocky 2, Rocky 4, Rocky 3, Rocky.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, but Apollo dies, and I don't know. I guess I live in a world where
revenge is death.
So you're saying that the Rocky losing just killed the whole thing? You wanted him to win that?
Yeah. Yes, every time, of course.
Well, that kills the story. Then there's no. Well, So this is why I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not a screenwriter.
I'm not paying good money to go to the theater to see Rocky lose.
Quit interrogating the man, please.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Coach.
Quit badgering him with your obviously correct opinion. Which do you view, if you had to choose one, which do you view as the most dangerous of Trump's lies?
I think the election denial, because I think it undermines, that's the foundation that everything's built on, the idea that democracy matters and that you count. I think everything, if you can get by with that, everything's on the table and you can just go after that. Our elections are secure. They're safe. They always have been. And, I think we grew up with this, and certainly me running office, I expect if I lose to go over and shake the hand of the person who won. And then in politics, work really hard to help them be successful. I didn't want to see George Bush win the election, but when he did, and I was a member of Congress, I wanted to see him be successful. So I tried to work with him the best I could.
I can't believe I'm uttering this sentence. I don't know, because you were playing Madden on Twitch with AOC, how much of what you saw at Madison Square Garden this weekend. Surely you've read about it, though. So what are your thoughts of how racist all of that felt?
Well, that's another thing that Senator Vance once said. He said the thing that voters don't really like about Donald Trump is the racist part. That was him. I did not say that. Look, this is dangerous stuff. It started long ago, but the Springfield stuff of denigrating, Haitian folks who were here legally just trying to get by. This dehumanizing piece of it is what's really, this is oldest playbook in the world. And I think for us, the contrast couldn't be greater. We're talking about unity. We're talking about bringing people together. We're talking about a to-do list for the American public rather than kind of an enemies list and putting people on there who we don't like. And very troubling. And I feel, my job as governor is to protect the citizens and do all we can. And I'm hearing from folks, the Hispanic community is nervous and in some cases scared. So I didn't watch it personally. AOC showed me that in real time. I didn't know who this guy was, this comedian or whatever, but, saying that we don't have a sense of humor, using vulnerable people as a punchline for your jokes is really weak. That is not humor. And I have to say this, the guy's delivery was terrible. It was just mean spirited. That wasn't a joke. That was a dog whistle. Well, not even a dog whistle. It was a scream.
Are you nervous and scared?
Look, I'm committed to winning this thing. I know the American people and the goodness of the American people. Kamala Harris is a leader that has devoted her entire life to serving people. I'm out there listening to folks. I'm in Savannah, Georgia. Last night I was in Ann Arbor, by the way, where I got to give the team in my speech, which was gold. But I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic person. I believe in this. This American experiment's not going to end here. We're going to continue to go on. But I'm not naive that there are things that we need to be. We've seen poll workers already attacked, and that was written off. And they made a joke about the person who got punched and called the guy who punched him a patriot. Look, I know you've got listeners out there, viewers that are conservative, that are Reagan Republicans, independents. They can't like this. If I were saying that stuff, you should be railing on me.
Well, something that I would rail on the Democratic Party on is I don't think they're much better at the border on immigration than Trump is. Mass deportation is horrifying to me, but Obama was pretty bad on this, and Biden wasn't a lot better. How are you guys better?
Yeah, well, the vice president's been clear, and since they've been in there, we had a chance to get this. And this happened once before, and we had a Republican governor showed courage, and that was George Bush as the governor of Texas. And we had a Republican senator showed courage, and that was Mike DeWine, who's now the governor of Ohio. These are folks that understand that Congress needs to be a piece of this. We had a bill that added 1,500 more agents. It added more equipment, but it also added more money to DOJ to expedite these asylum claims. And then you can secure the border, which we need to do, and also adhere to American values by giving pathways to citizenship. Where Donald Trump's talking about, J.D. Vance in that debate did not answer, will you separate families? And the answer is yes. Yes, they will. So I think, first and foremost, Dan, you need to get the tools necessary, and you do secure the border. But we can't forsake this idea that there are pathways to citizenship that take too long, and you can get people who are here, want to be here, contributing to this country, give them that pathway that's legal. And I think that's what the vice president has said. She said she'd sign the bill immediately. The only reason we don't have it is Donald Trump killed it because he loves the issue. He loves the issue. He doesn't want to fix this. He just wants to admire the issue and tell people he had 4 years. He doesn't want to fix it. Just continue to rail on.
Can you explain to people what mass deportations will do to prices in this country that are already crazy?
Well, look, I represent, and I was a member of Congress in southern Minnesota. We're the largest turkey producers. You can thank us at Thanksgiving, by the way, for your turkey. It's coming from Minnesota. And a lot of folks, like my grandparents, kind of first generation or second generation immigrants, were worked in meatpacking and things. And it's not me saying it, it's the leadership of those companies saying that it would be massive shutdown of it. How are you going to make this happen? How are you going to make the economy work? What's going to happen to the construction industry? And I think most Americans get that. They have compassion. What they want to know is the border's secure. They want to know that folks coming in are coming in through a legal pathway. And then they want to know, what's that path to citizenship look like? And I think folks could recognize and see this. Let's be honest. The jobs you're doing, who do you think's doing all these jobs? Who do you think's making it happen? These are folks that are doing the work. We need to fix that system. But I'll say this once again. It benefits Donald Trump to create chaos. It benefits Donald Trump to say, I'm the only guy who can fix it. Let's be clear. The only guy who didn't fix the border, who made it worse, was Donald Trump by killing that bill. My God, these were conservative senators like James Lankford from Oklahoma. Senator Lankford's super conservative, but he crafted a really good, fair, strong bill. And the mass deportation issue is, I think Americans are starting to understand that, I hope, thinking about it.
Coach, next Tuesday, Americans have a really important decision to make, and that is the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. What do you think they will do with a one-loss Notre Dame team that had a really brutal loss to Northern Illinois earlier this season, but has a great win against Texas A&M and the Naval Academy?
Good question.
I got to be careful on this one. I would just say, when doesn't Notre Dame get in? Even though the years we know they're not going to get in, they're going to get in. And so they may deserve it on this one, but everybody, they got a fan base that's across the country. I don't want to, I'm not a conspiracy guy here. I think we're moving towards a fairer system. My question is, what are you going to do with an undefeated Army or something? You get one of these, or who do we have out there? We got Boise State again, playing good ball.
Well, that means that they would beat Notre Dame because Army's got them at Yankee Stadium later this month, Coach. So that's a fair point.
They will.
That's a fair point.
They will, right? Yeah. Tell me you don't want to see that. We want to see that.
I am a Notre Dame grad, and I do not want to see that.
Are you brave enough to pick the Ohio State Penn State game? Would you dare?
Oh, Jesus.
Would you dare?
Yes, I would. I'm going with Penn State. I really am. And this is hard. I'm a Gopher guy out here. I should have done better research. I didn't know the Notre Dame thing, but in all fairness, I would have answered that question the same way anyway, just so you know. Yeah, no, I think Penn State. I think Penn State's a better team. And I say this because I'm still a peripheral Nebraska fan, and Nebraska should have won that game against Ohio State. They should have won that game. And I think that's a team that Indiana, boat raced the week before, and Ohio State slips by. I don't think that bodes well for them. I think James Franklin's got them ready, and look, they're at College Station where they're going to get all the calls too, so it's going to happen.
As a Gopher and as a Husker, what is your plan to stop conference realignment? Because we both know USC, UCLA, those are not Big Ten teams. They're just not.
I know. I got to go to the Coliseum, and as the timing worked out, the week after the Gophers beat them, which was I was in there wearing my gear and everything. Yeah, this is one that I don't know. And it's Charlie Baker, a former colleague, the governor of Massachusetts is there. I love that guy, and Republican governor, trying to deal with everything. I've forever been a guy that these players need to be compensated. I was 100% there, but this is a really strange place of how the nil collectives are working. And this is where I'm old enough that I'm still nostalgic. I'm the Tom Osborne, Barry Switzer, Big Eight, where the Oranges came down onto the field or whatever. Those classic rivalries, I'm really worried about that you don't get these games that were played every year, what that does to, because it feels, I don't know, I'll get your guys' opinion. You're the experts on this. It feels a little bit, now we've got AAA ball heading into the NFL, which college football was a distinctly different game. At least I saw it that way.
Coach, you are a big Twins fan, and I am outraged that Joe Mauer is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Am I right?
Oh no.
Am I right? You agree? I mean, Coach, you agree, right?
No.
He has no business being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh no.
Oh my God, Joe is the best guy. Just imagine he's a Hall of Famer at catch. He's a Hall of Famer at catcher. He's a Hall of Famer at first base. This guy, can they put him in twice?
No.
Can he be in there twice?
I'm not saying he shouldn't be in, Coach. I'm just saying first ballot is reserved for special players. You know what I'm talking about? He's not one of them.
Like who?
Like Babe Ruth.
Okay.
Roberto Clemente.
Okay, I'll give you that. He might not be Babe Ruth. So.
Thank you.
All right. Well, again, Stugotz is just badgering the coach.
I've never had somebody follow up.
Yes, you are.
Stu is pounding me. I got Rocky wrong. I got Joe Mauer
No,
wrong.
I'm trying to help you. Okay. Next time
What
someone
about
asks
Fran
you,
Tarkington? What about Fran Tarkington? You got any thoughts?
Not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Man.
See, I knew it.
No. I mean, did he win one? Does he have a ring?
So you throw Namath in with that too. Oh, the ring.
No, Namath's
right.
overrated. I'm a Jets
All right.
fan. He should not be in the Hall of Fame. He's terrible.
Are you still a Jets fan this week?
Yes, I am.
All right. Let's just show him a picture of Eric Adams here and get Coach's reaction to just the B-roll here of Eric Adams wearing a Yankee cap that is also a Mets cap. Tell me your honest opinions of what is happening there, and don't go political on me.
God, I don't know. I haven't seen that before. I think you just got to make a choice. This is kind of hard. I watch governors who have two teams in their state, and they just make the choice on them. You take a little bit of political heat, but these politicians go to like these state fairs, and then they don't want to say which one's the best. It's obviously Minnesota State Fair, and even though you lose votes in Iowa and Texas for saying that, you just say it. So I think Eric should just pick, and he's certainly not going to pick the Mets, so he should just wear the Yankees.
What do you?
It seems to me to be.
Yeah, no, it's a strong
great, yes.
opinion, and I think
Very good.
most of us would land there. What do you say to criticism that your campaign has been too much about don't vote for that, rather than making sure that everybody sees a progressive path for the country through you and your party?
Yeah. Well, if folks say that, then we hear them. But I will tell you this, we've been out there. I think that is a fair thing to say. I think you have to underline, what the other choices are. And in the case of Donald Trump, he's told us who he is, believe him on that. But we've given a new way forward. We've laid out extensive plans. I rolled out a rural agenda that the vice president and our team put together that I'm really proud of. These are things that people care about. If you don't live in a rural area, this issue of your rural hospitals and ambulance deserts and childcare, those things come up. People don't talk about these other things that, get in the news. They talk about how am I going to find childcare and what happens when I dial 911. And we've laid out plans on those. I think you do have a responsibility, and we're doing it to give people a reason to vote for it. And this one is turn the page, new way forward, end the chaos, middle-class tax cut, child care tax credit, making housing more affordable, bringing down prices. Those are things we're talking about. And I would challenge anybody in the media to show me what is Donald Trump's plan other than just a list of grievances. So this is a to-do list versus a grievance list, and I think that's a big difference.
I saw a report here, U.S. intelligence offices saying basically that Russians targeted you with some unfounded claims, and also all over the place there's a bunch of unfounded including, and this one seems like it would hurt, stolen valor. Which of these has been most hurtful to see this era of misinformation cut you?
Well, look, if you're in this, you know what you're going to get. I also said, don't forget, I supervised the high school lunchroom. I pretty much heard everything leveled at me. Russian intelligence can't beat a ninth grader who's really angry with you, I don't think. But I will just be honest with you. The integrity around this, I served 24 years honorably in service and have a spotless record on that, was a senior enlisted soldier in my battalion. And to see folks use this to kind of undermine that, I don't go out and stick it in people's faces. There's lots of ways to serve this country, but 24 years is a long time, and to have a record. And, the issue they're talking about, I'm talking about children being killed in our schools with weapons of war. And, one incident, use the wrong word. I certainly am proud of what I've done. I know what I've done, but I think undermining that, and then this, the Russian stuff or whatever, of course, they try and get as gross as possible. You just take it for what it is. The American people know who you are. They know who I am. And I think they know I'm not a serial liar like we've seen on the other side. So that makes a difference.
You're a hunter, and Kamala and you had and have guns, but you've had your opinion shaped or changed by what happened or what your daughter came to you with after the Parkland shootings very near Stugotz's home.
Yeah, well, I think it's an evolution. I think you'd want your elected officials to do this. I grew up in a time, Dan, where we took our guns to school. This isn't something, it's a different time, simpler. And after football practice, we'd go hunt because we're a town of 400. We're just out doing that. The world has changed. And I think for me, setting with the Sandy Hook parents, and my son would have been about the same age as theirs. Those kids would have graduated last year. They'd be 19. And there were all those little bodies piled up and shot in there with their teachers in their classroom with one of these weapons of war. Pretty hard to set in there when those parents are saying, can't you take a vote on background checks? Can't you take a vote on red flag laws? Can't you take a vote on these assault weapons? And the answer is yes. And having my daughter, and I've mentioned, I got a son who's in high school and they practice these drills. So look, you can protect the Second Amendment. Nothing we're proposing does anything on that. But our first responsibility is to those kids in the classroom. And I think the vice president's been very clear about that. And I think, look, this thing polls at like 80% the American public. This doesn't happen in other parts of the world the way it happens here. America can do something about this, and you can still have your firearms, your legal firearms, but we can make a big difference.
Trump has tried to distance himself from Project 2025. I'm guessing our listeners don't want to read a 900-page policy document, but its authors have tried to ban books about slavery. They want to privatize the weather forecasts, the weather.
Yeah.
They want to ban porn. What should scare the average young male apathetic voter about what it is that Trump really plans to do in office?
Yeah, all these things. You may think right now that they're not coming after you when it's, restricting women's rights to, to reproductive care, but you're right on this. And what you view in your content as an adult, what you're able to read or whatever, these are folks that have a very specific idea that they think government should make all these decisions. Banning the Department of Education, rewriting this. Why would we ban books on slavery? It happened. We're a big enough country, we can tell the story. You're never going to get beyond these things unless you understand where they were at. But these are folks that have a very specific agenda. They believe that they should weaponize the Department of Justice. I mean, imagine they're saying enemies from within. I know I'm at the top of that list, but a lot of your viewers need to recognize they'll be on that list too. If they happen to believe that we should have weather forecasting, if you live in Miami, it might be a nice idea to know which, a hurricane's coming because lives are at risk. These folks, and somebody asked, why do they want to privatize this or whatever? Because they want to deny climate change, because they want to deny we're doing, we need to do something. So I think there's a whole bunch of things in there and young viewers should, this is about freedom. This is a really, the juxtaposition between Donald Trump trying to talk about freedom when all they're trying to do is weaponize the federal government against your basic freedoms is really something to behold. And I think, when Vice President Harris talked about freedom, she means you make decisions about your health care, your family, the choices, what you read, what movies you watch. So I think it's a pretty clear choice, but all that thing, they want to distance themselves because it's horrific, because nobody's asking for this agenda. Can you guys picture, they're telling us that the biggest issue, a bunch of guys sitting around in a bar in Wisconsin is, what we should do? We should ban Orwell's books. We should ban 1984. No one's saying that. They're like, how come I'm not getting paid more? Where are the manufacturing jobs? How do I buy a house? And I don't want my kids to be shot. And I think listening to these guys talk about these things, nobody's asking for this crazy agenda.
Coach, thank you for the time. I think you might have swayed down the middle Chris here. I think he's
the
voting.
porn thing.
I'm pro-porn.
Yeah,
okay, excellent work by you guys.
Hey, you do what you do. You be you. You be you is my thought.
Coach, thank you for being on with us. I am mortified by my colleagues. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
I don't know what we're more like around here. Are we more like a hockey shift change, or are we more like a NASCAR pit crew? Lucy and Jessica
Speaking
just
of,
ran out of here.
I went to Homestead, and let me tell you, as someone that's gone to the Chicago street race and someone that's gone to Formula One several times when it's been down here in Miami, from a fan friendliness standpoint and a fan access standpoint, the experience that I had at the Straight Talk Wireless 400 in Homestead was second to none. I'm telling you, I'm out there on the track writing my name on the finish line like 40 minutes before the race. It was incredible.
You're not wearing the gear head correctly.
Yes, I am.
No,
he's
not.
wearing it.
He's got
Good
it.
effort.
Yeah.
Good effort.
He's got it on.
It's a little broken. So
on
we've got
his
two
head.
races left in the season. Martinsville, Kyle Larson absolutely needs to finish top 3 here if he wants to get to Phoenix with a shot at the championship, but this is enthralling. Joey Logano was eliminated. Now he's leader. Tyler Reddick had to win that race basically in order to get a playoff spot. Michael Jordan said the kid raced his ass off. You understand? Michael Jordan is presently suing NASCAR. The storylines in this motorsport are bananas.
Do you wish you would have jumped on sooner, back when Homestead was, the end, the championship? Yeah. You joined like 2-3 years too late.
At least it was in the playoff. Next year it's not in the playoff.
That's
it's
a shame.
Just got to be a race.
That honestly is a shame.
They bounced it out of the playoffs?
It's such
Matt
Beecher is going to be livid.
Oh, no doubt.
Such a great track. It was just a quality race. Really no big wrecks. Just the only wrecks were single car or 2-car because people were aggressive trying to win it. That's why you got to admire the 5-car. Stays true to himself, even though it's risky. Now he's got a big race at Martinsville. But I really wish that a lot of you people would think that this is sincere, because it is.
Yeah.
I am watching this over the NFL on Sundays. It's been such a fantastic season. You're all just standing idly by as this motorsport is really starting to find its groove.
I will say that Homestead Motor Speedway, as a South Florida institution, is one of the strangest sports things that we have anywhere in South Florida.
What do you mean?
That it's so far away, and then you have this giant facility that is is pretty first class. I mean, it's about 20 years old, but it is a place that I would say that NASCAR folks are proud to have, even though there's just a bunch of swampland all around it.
I mean, you can't exactly put a racetrack in the middle of downtown. Like, you got to put it where it fits.
We've done
you know?
that.
We've done that. With street courses, you can, but this is a traditional oval, and I was a little shocked. Like, the only thing in it's Vistas like this don't really exist in South Florida. It looks like somewhere in the middle of Tennessee. Otherwise, you would see, but you do see Turkey Point off in the distance, and you do get to see some water. Boy, if that thing ever blows. That's
the aqua walls. Oh, what a delight.
Dude, talk about those walls. Okay, so the traction at this track, it's famous. It's very slippery. It's because the track is paved with local seashells.
Yeah.
So the drivers find their advantage by literally hugging the wall, and you'll get a little... rubbing is racing, right? Yeah. But you can't even fit a credit card in between some of these cars. Ty Gibbs, one of the greatest Nepo babies of all time. Ty Gibbs, I guarantee you can't put a napkin in between that vehicle, that 54 car, and that turquoise wall that they have over there at Homestead Miami Speedway. But it's been a great NASCAR season. 2 races left. Thank you for the opportunity. Were you giving me the opportunity?
I was not.
Nothing wrong with kissing the wall with your car. You know what I mean? The wife understands. It's just part of the business.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Is rubbing racing, and does the wife understand that rubbing the wall is just
Kissing
part
the
of
wall,
the business?
Yeah, she does. Homestead is 45 minutes from here.
It's very far. Well, that's without traffic.
It's my first time there. I was going through a suburban neighborhood. I'm like, can you believe it? Alex the Showman Bowman is bringing his trucks here through this neighborhood. I just had the greatest time, and honestly, I've caught the bug in a very profound way, Dan Le Batard.
You walk up the slope, one of the turns?
I walked up.
Impressive.
The access is incredible. At Formula One, everything is so exclusive, and everything is so siloed.
NASCAR access is second to none.
Second to none.
As I was saying, Jessica and Lucy shot out of here to do Gen CFB, and I still don't know what this show is more like. Is it a hockey line shift change?
Well, a line shift, when a shift comes out, another shift comes in, we just have less players now.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel it's more like, well, Jeremy did come in. We do have fewer players, though.
You excited about it?
Well, let's do weekend observations because it's one of the greatest contests we've ever had.
Open the door just a little bit for me, Dan.
Just a crack.
The weekend observations.
In Alberta. McDavid going back for X-rays. Scoreless at Columbus. Are you kidding me?
The Panthers have won 5 in a row on the road.
Cole Sillinger, by the way.
I want to talk more Kachuk, but we need to get to weekend observations because this has been a contest months in the making.
Don't like what he did to Tate McRae, though.
I spent the morning trying to think of what Stugotz's back would be. Which player?
Who's going to be back?
Yeah, I thought, will it be Bryce Young?
Tyler Reddick.
I didn't know who. I did not know who it would be, and whether Stugotz would choose someone that would make it hard for the more than 20,000 participants to win. Mike, what are some of the things that people are betting on or predicting, I should say, to try and win this prize where they get to spend time, like some real cool time with our show?
Well, now that the contest is locked, let me see if I can activate. But I do know beeps and who is back of the week.
Yes.
Number of beeps?
Yeah. Number of beeps.
Number
who's
of beeps
back,
was
right,
in there.
Right. Will there be a top 5, I think, is in there? I mean.
I have a question on the number of beeps. So Chris is in control of that. So, like, if Chris misses a beep or he hits an extra beep, does that count? Are we doing where beeps are intended to go, or just number of beeps that get played over the air?
Number of beeps made by the litterer.
You're talking about a really sophisticated scheme from Chris Cody, and I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that during his time in Key West, he didn't think that whole thing through.
Scheme of war.
Let's go ahead and start the weekend observations.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, just 96 calories, available for delivery. Dan.
Billy just delighted in telling me that you've pissed off all of Japan
I
with
have,
your tweets on Otani.
Dan interrupting you first.
Yeah. Taylor. Dan, buckle up. Because when he is in at quarterback, it's either big plays or pure chaos. No in-betweens. And honestly, I would have taken it any other way. Whether it's a four-course meal.
You would not have taken it any
I'm
other
thinking
way.
about Japan right now. Whether it's a four-course meal of touchdowns or an interception appetizer with room for seconds, one thing's for sure. Eating a W is always on the menu. This past Sunday, he returned, taking down one of the few teams in the sport that we thought was actually good. And Dan, just like that, make no mistake about it, Jameis Winston is back.
A lot of contestants still in the game if they took Jameis Winston. That's a good one.
Notre Dame, do it at the Naval Academy. Tired of them. Notre Dame, please. Not sure about everyone else, but in my personal record book, Navy is 8-0. StugottsBook.com. 8-0. Notre Dame may have won the battle, but Navy always wins the war. I mean, they do, right?
Often. We're
Often,
not
no.
undefeated, but
Well, no,
often.
Navy is undefeated. 8-0. Personal record book. Playoff. Fortunately for us, playing in that football game was the least important thing the Navy players did the entire week. WTY FYS. We thank you for your service. For those keeping track at home, Mike Norvell should now spell his last name with 7 L's.
That's a fireable offense, by the way, to have that program, even as good as they were last year, losing 7 times so far, because they're going to put up like a 2-9 record or something crazy
9
like
L's.
that.
Yeah.
He's responsible for 2 of their worst seasons ever. Yeah, $10 million a year is why he's not going to be fired. To think he turned down Alabama. That was the nature of the reports, whether or not that was super genuine or just an agent posturing.
Crazy.
Was that he turned down Alabama.
Yep. Aaron Boone, hot seat. Chicago Bears, take the training wheels off. New York Jets, quarterback away. Mason Rudolph can scoot. The Washington Commanders won the draft. Dan, you know what the H in Kyle Hamilton stands for?
I do not.
Not hands. I mean, he had that game. The game was on his hands. If he had any, they would have won the game. They don't. They lost.
Brock Purdy can also scoot.
He can scoot. I like that bet. Will Dan have an observation during Stu's weekend observations?
That's not part of the contest, I don't believe.
No.
Shohei Ohtani. They'll never look at you the way they look at Freddie Freeman.
Billy, what's going on with Stugotz in Japan? What are the latest? Because he's getting tweets in Japanese.
Yeah, it would appear that you tweeted out about Shohei Ohtani basically doing it at the World Series.
I did?
Yeah.
I think it was do it with no runners on. No? Or that was before that?
That was, the LCS. Now in the World Series, you or your account has tweeted something about Ohtani that has upset Japan, in which they're essentially telling you to shut up.
Huh. I mean, he's batting .091 in the World Series. You shut up.
Wow.
You're going to go to war with Japan?
No. Baseball should just be 162 games of Yankees-Dodgers. You agree?
That would really ruin Navy season.
Notre Dame's going to screw up this Navy-Army thing for everybody.
Are they?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I think that those schools could have gone into the game against each other unbeaten.
Wasn't talking about Notre Dame. Talking about the whole Japan thing.
Yeah.
We'd need them.
Yeah.
In
We
the
do.
war.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Horvath.
I can't go to war with
No more?
Japan, right? No.
No more pitches to the fullback.
Yeah.
You already have gone to war with Japan. It's happening right now on social media.
You asked me, I said no. I mean, I haven't declared war.
It's already, well, I mean, you did by pointing out that Ohtani needed to be better.
I don't have international incident in the prediction pool.
Yeah.
Without Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs are probably still 7-0. Without Spags, they are probably 0-7. They say art is subjective. I say that Dwayne Wade statue is terrible. Top 5 statues of all time.
Oh, wow.
Number 5, the Rocky statue.
You know they moved it?
They did, slightly, though.
Yeah, it's not at the top of the steps.
No,
you kind of
no,
want to see
it's at
that
the
bad
bottom
boy at
now.
the top of the steps.
Yeah. Do you run the steps when you go there?
Yeah.
You have to, right?
Wasn't that bad?
Yeah.
Has anyone interrogated the prospective vice president the way that Stugotz did on the subject of Rocky and made him retreat? Made Tim Walz retreat.
He's wrong. I mean.
He's going to get aggregated by calling the Wade statue pretty horrific. Quote, pretty horrific.
Number 4, the Heisman Trophy. Number 3, the Michael Jordan statue outside the United Center. Number 2, the Statue of Liberty play by Boise State in the 07 Fiesta Bowl.
That was a good play.
Thank you.
You know they moved that Jordan statue inside?
Get out of here.
Yeah, like if you go to visit,
How about we
it's
stop
the wrong
moving
day.
statues?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I mean,
couldn't see it. I went just to see it, and like United Center was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I drove there just to see the Jordan statue. Couldn't get in because there was an event inside.
It's like Homestead.
Yeah, I had to leave.
I got to tell you, whether it's littering should be outside or statues should be outside, we need to keep statues outside.
Yeah. The Madhouse on Madison. Number 1, Joe Flacco.
In the pocket.
No, just Joe
He had a
Flacco.
40-yard touchdown
In the pocket
run.
was Taylor. Joe Flacco is me.
He has a 39-yard touchdown scramble in his career.
You can scoot.
It was his rookie year.
Yeah. Here come the Sabres.
There they went.
What do you mean? Did you not see what the?
I mean, I wrote these Saturday.
I mean,
Taylor.
But last night,
What happened? They lost?
I mean, the Panthers have won 5 in a row on the road.
Huh. Here come the Sabres.
Okay, you're stubborn about it.
Matthew Stafford would have won that game for the Vikings. This might be the best coaching job of Mike Tomlin's career this year. I mean, the way he handled Justin Fields and Russell Wilson and just seamlessly, that's how you do it. I mean, he's a great coach who's a little bit overrated because he can't get it done in the postseason.
I love it when someone else writes their observations that undercut a previous take.
I hate it, Taylor.
You could write them yourself.
Navy, turning the ball over 6 times against Notre Dame. Are we sure we trust them with our nuclear weapons? Smetty.
I don't trust you around that word.
Nuclear.
Yeah. There you go.
That's what happens when you care about our nation's security and not ball security. Smetty. How did this Notre Dame team lose to Northern Illinois? Smetty. Navy isn't your father's Navy or your grandfather's Navy. It's just the same old Navy. Smetty. Navy in the triple option. Dan, you know what it means if you have 3 options?
You don't have any.
Hey, look at you. It means you don't have one. Russell Westbrook is a nugget. Rest of the NFL, here's an idea. Stop trading your players to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're doing just fine. I could listen to Jameis Winston talk for hours. The Dodgers won Game 2. The second Ice Cube started performing. Fat Joe lost Game 3 for the Yankees. Do we need a concert before every World Series game? Can't baseball just be enough?
Oh, my God.
Just give me some baseball.
You guys,
give me 9 innings.
You and Billy. You're Billy taking out my demo because he doesn't like Ice Cube, because he doesn't like 50-year-old rappers and Fat Joe. And you just want baseball. All of a sudden now you're pining for baseball to go back to being what it was in the 1920s.
It wasn't an attack on you. It was just like factual. I know Ice Cube more from like RV movies.
Family movies.
Yeah,
instead
he's
of,
great.
yeah.
I like those
Family movies?
Yeah.
Bartolo Colon is faster than Giancarlo Stanton.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Is Bartolo Colon faster than Giancarlo Stanton?
More like Giancarlo.
Giancarlo Stanton.
He's not fast.
Right. Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. Derek Jeter, Mr. November. Aaron Judge, Mr. June. The J of Judge stands for June. As a Met fan, it has warmed my heart seeing how quickly Yankee fans are turning on Aaron Judge. Yankee fans, firing Aaron Boone while he's managing the team in the World Series. WFAN must be getting 40 shares this month.
Billy just did the same thing.
More like Giancarlo standing.
Oh. What?
He's not moving.
LeBron James passed Michael Jordan with the most career 30-point games after turning 39 years old. Yawn. Let me know when he passes him in rings.
And when he wins at Homestead.
Do we have the in-season tournament again, by the way?
Yeah.
The IST?
IST.
That's an annual thing we're
No,
doing,
it was
huh?
a one-year thing.
You never know.
It went so poorly. I mean,
What are you talking about? How can you forget that final between the Lakers and
the Pacers?
I know it's Pacers.
It's crazy.
I'm going for a joke, Jeremy. Why are you back
It was
in?
just a shock. I was supporting you.
You get fat on the Pistons and all of a sudden you pop your head in.
It was a good win. Playing team.
Andy Reid's Hall of Fame bust should have Patrick Mahomes' face on it.
You did not just say that a win against the Pistons is a good win. You didn't do that.
Maybe a playoff team, man.
Wins a good win.
If you're going to do that, you should do it from the spin room. That can't be said out in public.
I don't have the spin room today, Dan.
If you buy World Series gear and your team loses, you should be embarrassed. In fact, you should be ashamed of yourself. You don't buy World Series gear before your team wins the World Series. You know what they call that, Dan? They call it putting the cart before the horse, counting your chickens before they roost. You know what I mean?
Before they hatch, I think. Is
I don't know
how you count the
Taylor
chickens.
I
write
am
that
not
one.
sure.
I think you're
Might be a
mixing
personal
up
experience
quotes.
for Taylor. Yeah.
I call it the Tariq Stevenson, celebrating a win before you've won.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Do you buy World Series champion merch before you've won? Yes
You don't
or no?
do it. You don't. You don't. Dan, you know what the T in Tariq and the S in Stevenson stand for?
Too soon?
They stand for the Stugotz is strong in you.
He was celebrating very early, and he has had to apologize.
Can you say he's laughing at his own jokes anymore, Chris?
It felt like we talked more about Colorado football when they lost. Probably not fair.
Yeah, it's so true.
Seahawk defenders fighting with each other on the sideline. Chuck Knox is rolling over in his grave.
Or as I like to call him, Chuck Knoll.
You know what Chuck Knox was, Dan? A tough SOB.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's very true.
McAfee should have been the replacement kicker for the kid who tore his ACL. I mean, he has to. Put a stiff out there. Give the kid a chance. Anyway. Nick Sirianni.
If I may, video, why don't you get the footage of that guy tearing up his knee, please, and just keep playing it because it's awful and funny to watch.
Nick Sirianni, NFL Head Coach of the Year, Collision Course. Myles Garrett, the rare person who looks less intimidating when dressed as the Terminator. What happened?
It wasn't that great a costume. It wasn't a great Schwarzenegger. That's a lot of work to put in to have a Schwarzenegger that's not a great Schwarzenegger.
The missed extra point always comes back to haunt you. You can't be called Greg the Leg and miss a 44-yard field goal and an extra point. I hate them. Has an interim coach ever been fired? I hate them. At least Devontae Adams is playing with his friends. I hate them. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, there's a play clock. You have to snap the ball before it ticks down to 0. I hate them. Has any other team in the history of professional football, I'm rolling right now, Dan, ever burned all 3 timeouts on a touchdown drive in the first quarter? I hate them.
They have had a lot of trouble with the play clock. Like it's weird.
Yeah, it ticks down to 0.
Aaron Rodgers
Right.
has never had trouble with that.
I know. You know what the S in Salah stands for, Dan? Smiles. All smiles. I hate him. Anthony Richardson. Honesty is not the best policy. I'm not certain anyone in the history of the NFL can make you forget how bad he's been with a single throw other than Anthony Richardson. He is terrible for 2.5 quarters, and then he does something you've never seen on a football field before, and you forget the 2.5 quarters.
There are only 2 quarterbacks I've seen in the league that make consistently puzzling, terrible throws.
You're right.
It's Anthony Richardson and Trevor Lawrence,
Yes.
where he misses a guy by 14 yards, and you're like, what was that?
Mm-hmm. The F in Freddie Freeman stands for fake teeth. The EE in Freeman stands for the EE in teeth. Phil Lesh, rest in peace. An amazing man with a beautiful mind. I love you, I'll miss you, and thank you for being the person responsible for providing me with over 100 of the greatest nights of my life.
You being grateful for someone who's dead makes that the perfect Grateful Dead punctuation.
Hell of a run. Speaking of hell, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Stugotz, I don't know if you've noticed early in this NBA season something that I think is the funniest thing that I have seen on the court during the NBA season. It's early now, and when you say the Celtics are disrespected, they're undefeated again. They win last night against Milwaukee. If they don't get injured, it's going to be very hard to see much of anyone beating them. But the funniest thing that I've seen in the NBA this year is just how difficult it is for Zach Edey to stay on the court, because he had 4 fouls in 13 minutes in one game and 6 fouls in 15 minutes in another game, which is what would happen if you or I were trying to defend the post. That many fouls that quickly, where you're getting 6 fouls in 15 minutes, is super odd.
He's also getting his money's worth. I mean...
He's just too slow to be out there.
He is, you're right.
And that's a weird team for him to join, just because if you're going to build around Ja Morant, he's going to make his way up and down the court about 7 times in the time it takes old Nike Air Cement sneakers Zach Edey to be able to run up and down the court.
Is this like a modern day bruiser? Like, hey, the coach is like, hey, you're getting 13 minutes. Use them.
I would tell you, back in the 90s, perhaps the late 80s, this guy would dominate Rick Smits. I mean, I am telling you. He was, I mean...
Rick Smits was quite good.
He was.
No one's dominating Rick Smits. Even Ewing had trouble.
No.
Occasionally.
It was Reggie Miller, Dale Davis, Antonio Davis. It was never Rick Smits.
I just can't think of a worse team for Zach Edey to be on than Memphis when you consider Ja Morant's strengths. And Ja Morant can literally make it up and down the court before Zach Edey can make it down the floor once.
It's crazy because the general NBA consensus when drafted was that. And then, because he played really well in the preseason, I saw a lot of NBA minds that I really respect go, you know what? Maybe this will work. Offensively, he has more to his game than we thought. And now, in 2 games, it's a complete 180 all the way back to this guy can't play. He can't be on the floor. He's the first player since the merger to foul out in 15 minutes or less in his NBA debut.
Complete 180.
Wow.
What?
That was better.
It's a good one.
It was good.
Lucy is about to catch a flight, Stugotz, but before it is that she leaves, I wanted to include her on an Instagram story and a story in general that a lot of people are noticing and talking about, which is that Gisele Bündchen, recently divorced Gisele Bündchen, is evidently, the reports are, having now pregnant and about to have a baby with the jiu-jitsu instructor that was a bit of an entanglement at the end of whatever Tom Brady's relationship status was with Gisele Bündchen at the end of their marriage. This is an interesting story beyond the gossip elements, Stugotz, because it's really rare for Tom Brady to be in any marriage where he's not the biggest money earner, because throughout this power couple's marriage, Tom Brady was in a marriage where Gisele Bündchen, what she was doing with aging, harder to do than what Tom Brady was doing in sports with aging, which is maintaining beauty money as you age. And now at the end of a relationship that everybody was interested in, you have, something that feels, if not tawdry, slightly scandalous. And what is Tom Brady doing on his Instagram stories? I'm not on Instagram, but I just saw that a lot of people were talking about whatever it is that Tom Brady is doing.
I wouldn't call this situation scandalous because, like, hey, you're divorced. You want to go have a baby with your hot jiu-jitsu instructor. Hell yeah, sister. You do that. That's feminism. But what I found funny about this situation, people are like, Lucy, it's not funny. Well, guess what? My parents are divorced, so I can laugh about it. I have
It's kind of like littering inside.
Yeah, I have full right to do that. Tom Brady last night posted on his Instagram story like a sunset picture with you can put songs on your story of Landslide. But he didn't even do the Fleetwood Mac version. He did the Chicks version, which every time Iowa loses, I post that. I post the Landslide by the Chicks because I think it's really, really funny. You're probably, if Landslide is the song you're relating to, you're probably going through it at the moment. So he was expressing himself online in a funny way.
The quote was, "Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love?" What's
What's
he mean by that?
By the way, everyone thinks that Landslide is about like a broken heart. That's not what that song's about. Stevie Nicks said that like when she was trying to get into music, her parents were like, hey, girl, this isn't going to work out for you. We'll pay for you to go to school. And so she was like, well, it's not working out. I can't get anywhere. Like, I'm not going to have success in the industry. So the song was about her realizing she had to give up on her dream as a musician. And that's what Landslide is about. Little fun factoid for you there.
To be clear, I don't believe Gisele Bündchen having a baby now with her jiu-jitsu instructor is in any way scandalous. I was referencing
feminism.
The fact, thank you, Stugotz. I know you're a big advocate there.
Stu gets it.
I was referencing the fact that there were a lot of reports invasive in their marriage about why it is it ended and if the jiu-jitsu instructor had anything to do with it. The only reason I know that this jiu-jitsu instructor exists is because of whatever it is that was happening at the end of their marriage that the tabloids were reporting on. What do you make of this? You're feeling something in the realm of turmoil or heartbreak that Tom Brady is throwing out into the environment where he's just telling everybody, well, that news stings. Is that what you're making of it?
I don't know. I think I just kind of find the song choice funny. And that was my whole sort of takeaway because that's my ironic sad song. Every time Iowa loses, I do a little rotation. Landslide by the Chicks or Bad Day, the song that they used to play when you got kicked off American Idol. And that one really would leave a nice little mark. But yeah, I mean, I don't know the inner details of their relationship, and I'm sure he's sad. But I just thought the post was funny.
Okay, that's all you wanted to talk about. You just wanted to talk about whether or not.
I like to gossip, Dan. It's fun and it's healthy. I saw a TikTok therapist tell me how important gossip is, and they're never wrong.
All right, put it on the poll, Juju. Is gossip healthy? Video, do me a favor, please, and get me the graphic of Anthony Rizzo during the World Series being pelted by baseballs, because I think this is one of the things in sports, Stugotz, that we are consistently looking past as something that really, really hurts in baseball,
right.
And we just sort of shrug our shoulders on that. As hard as pitchers are throwing these days, and I understand that people, wear the equivalent of shin guards and elbow pads and everything else to make sure that when they get hit by baseballs, it's not too problematic. But the graphic that they showed during the World Series last night,
so good,
of Anthony Rizzo he crowds the plate and he doesn't back off, and it's got to be hard not to flinch. I don't know if you've seen Mary Hart. Do young people here know who Mary Hart is? The former Entertainment Tonight anchor. She's got
I do know.
Great seats right behind home plate at Dodger games, and she's the only one who she.
Lucy, no.
That's
$50.
I'm not going to pay that. I don't live here.
So
she didn't know.
So you don't know who she is.
$50.
Wait, that was
Not
such
gonna do
a
that.
that was such like a Lucy.
I'm so happy she's alive, though.
Didn't
She
Mary
was great
Hart-
on Entertainment Tonight.
Yeah, and she used to
She
throw her
retired,
hat in
like,
the sky.
yeah, I remember her.
You're gonna make it after
That's
all.
Mary Tyler Moore. That's not Mary Hart. Hart.
No, but I know Mary Hart, and I'm
Lucy,
so happy she's alive.
You
That's
owe
the best
$50.
No, I'm not going to pay that.
Lucy, that's not one of the options.
Can I
Lucy.
expense it?
Lucy,
Yeah.
no,
You
no.
can. You actually can.
Lucy, that's a $50 fine.
All right, well, I have a flight to catch.
Okay,
so it's
okay, then it's $51 if you
Traveler's
tell
check.
me there's no cash.
Was Mary Tyler Moore the
carries
one
cash?
with Bob Newhart, or was that another person?
That was not with Bob
Wasn't
Newhart.
it a spin-off?
I think.
And
I
then
think
Bob
Billy's right,
Newhart's
yeah.
show was just a dream. Spoiler alert, right? Isn't that how that works?
I don't think I may have this wrong. I don't believe that Mary Tyler Moore and Bob Newhart were connected, but maybe someone will correct me
No,
on
that was a Dick Van Dyke
thought-
show,
yeah, I
right?
thought
She
it
was
was
married
Dick
to
Van
Dick Van
Dyke.
Dyke, and then sometimes he tripped over the ottoman.
What I was
Yes.
saying about Mary
DVD.
Hart is that she sits right behind home plate, and
Love that
she's
for
the
her.
only person who doesn't flinch. She's been doing it for so many years. On foul balls that go flying back, you will see everyone around her flinch, and she's the only one who does not flinch.
But she might be dead.
She's not dead.
Oh.
She is still alive.
Maybe that's why she doesn't flinch.
She wouldn't flinch if she were dead. That's correct. But Lucy, you're going to go ahead and owe those $50. But here's Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Getting pelted. Lucy, this is not how this works around here.
Says who?
Well, as your boss technically
she
says
looks great, by the
me
Mary
technically.
Hart looks good. Good for her.
Let's go ahead and show Anthony Rizzo, Stugotz, this graphic of him just getting hit at my
Oh my lord! Did he die?
This is the funniest thing I've ever seen. They made like the cartoon Rizzo just crumble to the floor.
Yes, if you're not watching this on YouTube, it's him being hit by the equivalent of 100 baseballs. I don't know how many times I guess it's 194.
194, yes.
Most in Major League Baseball
Since 2015. So, good God.
What is the record for most hit by pitch in the entire history of baseball?
Biggio, right?
It
so.
used to be, but 194 times since 2015, Stugotz. Look, I don't know how many people listening to this think about the daily wear and tear that athletes endure. I know in baseball, I've told you a couple of different times that the 162-game season traveling like that, it's an insanity. Like, it's not reasonable in any way. And to be hit by a baseball 194 times in the last decade.
Yeah, Mike, this is going to be disappointing. Craig Biggio is second all time. He was hit 285 times. Huey Jennings is number one with 287. Biggio just too short of the record.
But Biggio does have the modern era record.
Yeah.
And Huey, I'm just going to guess, leaned into a few.
Huey, born in 1869, died in 1928.
Yeah.
If I'm Biggio, I consider coming back for the record, right? Like Mr.
Agreed.
3000.
Yeah.
Like, this is something he can accomplish if he comes back.
You're two away.
Give
Just
him a
lean into
month.
two.
Yeah,
A month of ABs.
exactly right.
Don Baylor up
that's a
there.
good idea.
Jason Kendall up there. Anthony Rizzo, 8th all time.
Chase Utley, ninth.
I have a random segue on the same topic, more or less. I met someone recently who they asked me what I did, and I said I worked with you, Dan, and they said that they didn't like you because you gave away your Craig Biggio Hall of Fame vote.
Yeah.
Is that the case? I didn't think you gave away that vote. And
Are you scratching your knee or your
no,
dog?
Willow was humping me.
It's actively happening.
Baby.
But I fought through it, okay? I persevered. No one needs to know about that. Cut that, Jer Bear. Cut that from the record.
Can't cut it
I
from
didn't
my
think
mind.
you took Craig Biggio's unanimous vote away. What, did you?
I sold my Hall of Fame vote to Deadspin. I didn't actually sell it, didn't take any money. And I don't know. They ended up voting in 10 people who deserved to be in. The voters, the readers of Deadspin did a good job. And I don't assume that they would not vote in Biggio.
I'm confirming this, but I believe Biggio missed being a first ballot by one vote, and my dad didn't vote for him. And then the next year did, and he got in easily
So
the
it
next
was you
year.
being blamed for something Greg
Yes,
did?
of course.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought, because he sprung this on me, and I was like, oh, yeah, I know Dan sold his ballot once, but I didn't associate it with Craig Biggio in any way.
One of the things back in my day is
Attaboy.
out beginning today. Back in my day with Greg Cody. You mentioned Don Baylor, and
so good.
One of my favorite stories involves, like sports stories, involves Don Baylor, and it's he stands in the box and he does lean over the plate, and he was hugely intimidating, and he wouldn't flinch, so he would get hit by a ton of pitches, and then he would run to first base or jog and never show anybody that it hurt at all until the time he got hit by a Nolan Ryan fastball. And then he jogs to first base and everyone's waiting, and he jogs to first base as if it doesn't hurt at all, and then gets to first base and collapses. Being hit by 194 baseballs in a decade, Stugotz, I got to imagine. Think about how and this doesn't probably apply to the younger people, but I'm sure that at this point, Mike, Billy, Chris, dads, you're feeling aches and pains when you wake up in the morning. You've gotten to that age, have you not? Imagine being hit on the forearm, on the wrist, on the elbow 194 times, on the hip by people coming out of the bullpen now. An A's reliever comes out of the bullpen throwing 104 miles an hour.
Imagine being paid $60 million a year to do that, though. I mean, Jesus, Rizzo.
Well,
I'm not feeling bad for him.
$60
that
million
guy has made
a year.
$220 million in his career.
But he's not being paid.
Hit me with 194
Where did you
billion.
come up with he's getting $60 million a year?
It was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
It kind of helped the argument.
Seventh inning stretch.
Right, yeah.
My hip, to your point, Dan, my hip kind of pops when I get out of bed.
Every morning.
You just have to move my go in a circle until I feel the pop.
Yeah, Biggio was 2 votes shy, by the way.
So
Two.
Dan's and Greg's.
2 in a second year.
It was just one of those awkward things where I was put in a weird spot and I didn't know whether or not to be like, yeah, I don't have anything to do with Dan's choices with his Hall of Fame votes. Please don't hold that against me. But also, like, maybe he didn't even do that. So I can't really say, but
I don't think I did.
I'm not a bad person.
I can be blamed for any number of things. I don't think that's one of them. I would have heard about it if I had kept Biggio out of the Hall of Fame. I'd certainly remember it. I wanted to ask you guys something else that has finally happened, and I'm surprised it took this long to happen. People are turning on the omnipresence of Jason Kelce. He is everywhere so much, and the Kelce's had a really good run of not annoying people, but recently ESPN is now reportedly thinking of a late-night show with Jason Kelce, and I don't know when and how or where it's most recently happened because they had a sustained run of nobody seemingly being annoyed with them and how much they were grabbing at. And it seemed like everywhere people were finding them charming and endearing and delightful, being introduced to the personality that Philadelphia had already come to love with Jason Kelce. But they've taken so many media jobs that there is now a significant pushback on Jason Kelce is everywhere. Do I need this much Jason Kelce? I still like hearing from him everywhere, but where are you guys on this?
I mean, people are always going to be contrarians, Dan. They did this with Tony Romo, and they can never take Tony Romo away from me. At the end of a game, there is no one else I want to hear saying, damn it, than Tony Romo. And they tried to tell me, Tony Romo's so annoying. They don't even let him predict plays anymore. He's just weird, and he makes weird noises. No, I love Tony Romo. Same thing with Jason Kelce. People out there, they just want to be different. They just want to be contrarian. And they want to say, enough of Jason Kelce, like I did with Jason Stugotz at the WNBA Finals. Yeah. And sometimes people just do that.
But it could be a case of Jason Kelce is in too many places saying too many things. Like, if I had to give those guys advice, it would be stick to your podcast. Like, you have your own...
And come on God Bless Football.
And come on God Bless Football. Like, you have your own platform. Let yourselves be heard once a week right there. And nowhere else.
Oh, but they're being paid a great deal of money
Dan,
to make
they've made
appearances
so much money
all over the place.
I know, but just like, I don't know. For me, just stick to the podcast.
Stop making money?
Well, no, they've made a ton of money. They can go about it differently than most people. They don't have to grab at every single appearance, every single commercial, every single job that's offered to them like I would. They could just come on once a week and just do their show, and people would flock to it.
That's horrific advice.
Well, that's my advice.
Don't do Monday Night Countdown. Don't do any of that. Don't do any of the commercials.
But that's why people are getting annoyed.
But
He's
chunky
in too many
is
places.
spicy. And it's good to be spicy.
Contractually, I think he's got a bunch of deals that obligate him, not unlike Belichick, to be everywhere because they grabbed at so much opportunity post-retirement. I would say nobody would dispute that the Kelceys have been managed well, right? That the Kelce economy has been managed well. That's not up for dispute. It can't be disputed, but they may have grabbed too much stuff. I expected this recoil to arrive earlier than it has.
From the Kelce standpoint, though, I feel like this is the way with a lot of players that once they're done playing, they still want to be around the game of football, and like this is a way for him to still be going to games, part of the game. Like he's still around football, which is obviously a game that he loves. So I don't begrudge any Kelce for doing any media opportunity. And I think that like their Q rating is probably still pretty high.
Late night television, how do we feel about that? That seems like an older form for ESPN to embrace. There aren't a whole lot of people getting into late night television right now. ESPN has never succeeded at late night television that isn't SportsCenter. At one point, I was talking with Eric Rydholm, the producer, pardon the interruption, about doing something coast to coast with Bill Simmons. They've done some stuff with Jay Moore, but late night television generally has not worked at ESPN. How do you feel about Jason Kelce being stood up as a signature personality around? These are the reports around which you would build a late night show.
I mean, he's a center. That's like a lot of pressure to put on a guy to host and carry a late night show, to be funny, to be entertaining. I don't know if it's a daily show or a weekly show. It's just a lot to ask. And I guess back to my original point, when you start doing so many other things, the thing that made you popular starts to suffer. And so that's why I would tell Jason and Travis just to focus on that one thing while Travis is still playing.
I agree. He probably can't block for now.
I don't think that's like necessarily an issue because we're leaving out a portion where his brother dates the biggest pop star in the entire world. So like, I don't think that their audience is fading away by any means. I think they're growing and growing, and now they're attracting a completely different audience than they did a year, 2 years ago, because you have this whole new demographic of people. I just say, like, whatever. I want everyone to make money and succeed and be happy, and why not strike while the iron's hot?
This
you know?
is kind of like when LeBron came down here, and it made us go to, like, it was like, ooh, LeBron, and then LeBron left us, and it was like, oh, like Kelce right now has the Taylor Swift effect. If, like, LeBron leaving us, Taylor leaves them, do the Kelce's still...
It's a terrible example.
Yeah.
It's a good example.
Did you see Jason Kelce when he was at the Taylor Swift concert like a week ago was like getting swarmed like a celebrity? Like everybody was just running after Jason. He just went to buy like merch and everyone was so excited to see Jason.
Yeah.
This wouldn't have happened like 2 years ago. Why would you not take advantage?
When Lucy is saying that the audience continues to grow, I don't believe it is possible in 2024 to have your audience grow without a substantive portion of it becoming polarized by that growth. I don't think you're allowed in 2024 to just get universal applause on anything. I don't think a person exists that just gets everyone anymore applauding for them all the time. If the Kelceys are going to get more and more audience acquisition, inevitably they're going to get some blowback and be less popular in spaces than they've ever been.
And that's already happened. Like there's a whole group of men out there that are furious that there's a woman at football games on camera. Like we've already sort of seen that blowback, but like they have a big enough audience, they make enough money. Their podcast is one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Like I honestly think they're pretty chill and they're fine. And like you never know what a post-football career is going to look like for somebody. Like something could happen and Jason couldn't be on TV anymore or whatever. So like why not capitalize on it now when you know that you're going to make a lot of money and you can set yourself for life?
I wanted to ask you guys something else that I discussed with Mina Kimes and Pablo Torre on Pablo Torre Finds Out. Did I read this report correctly that Mina and Dan Orlovsky are doing something with The Simpsons? Did I just saw something in passing and I didn't read any of the details.
Yes, they announced it during the game. There's like a Simpsons NFL broadcast that's going to happen.
Oh, wow.
So
didn't go great with Toy Story.
Why?
Guys, it was
all right.
super glitchy.
That's
What
to
are we
the
thinking?
beginning.
Do you guys not remember watching it?
No, I don't.
I
honestly.
remember.
Joe Tess was like, sorry again. You're just looking at me because the game has stopped working.
That was a
Book
good
killed
test.
it though.
It was ambitious.
Oh, it's ambitious.
It went okay. There were hiccups, but I think we all expected that. And now
You
they're
are
doing it
looking
with
live at me only.
and now they're going to do it with The Simpsons. So that's kind of cool.
By the way, just one last thing on the Kelceys. So Jason Kelce made $81 million in his 12-year NFL career. He's already signed a 3-year, $100 million contract deal with Wondery. Like, why would he turn down more money when he's easily making more than he made in his entire career in the NFL?
That deal was for the podcast, though, right?
Yeah, but
Right.
that's just one aspect of it. If you could do the podcast once a week or whatever it
You're
is,
saying
and make $100
grab
million,
it all the money while you can.
yeah, because he beat his body for 12 years to
Okay.
get to this point. Now he can cash in on all the work that he did. Granted, it's because of the popularity of the podcast with his brother and with who his brother's dating. But like, why not cash in?
It's a Cowboys-Bengals Monday Night Football game, and I think it's brilliant because making the Cowboys Simpsons characters is the only way you will get me to watch the Cowboys again this season.
Thank you for bringing up the Cowboys, because that's what we were talking about with Mina on Pablo Torre Finds Out, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, because Mina and I don't very often have big disagreement, but we did on this. And the story was that the Cowboys do something that no other team in the league does, which is where their players are working out or in private spaces, they do fan and customer tours that are invasive to the players that make more than $10 million a year, because Cowboy fans have an unusual access to the spaces that are usually private for the Cowboys. And some former Cowboys were saying that it gets in the way of winning, that it is a distraction. And the thing that Mina and I were disagreeing about is I don't believe in the way that Jerry does these transactions where winning is secondary, that business is ever a distraction, because business is what it is that Jerry does. And business is booming in Dallas, even if the product on the field isn't particularly relevant because of how it is that he ends up doing business. And I wanted to discuss this with you guys because some former Cowboys are saying that stuff like that gets in the way of winning, and I don't believe that it does. I believe Jerry will find wherever it is that he can find dollars around the circus tent, and has done this for 30 years. He does not care what the attention looks like as long as there is attention. And I'm about to give you a pretty shocking stat, I believe, about the business of the Dallas Cowboys.
I think that the story about the tours made me think of watching the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders series on Netflix, because there was a really uncomfortable scene where there was a tour going through like their locker room, and the whole thing just was like very, very invasive feeling and was just honestly pretty bizarre. I'm with you on like the business is the business, right? Like the business is making money, but I could totally see how a player would not like working in that environment, would not like working out in that environment, would feel like they're constantly being surveilled or constantly being bothered by people that aren't on the team. And that is sort of like a sacred place for teammates to be together and to like work together, and how just awkward it would feel. And so, yeah, I could see how that would bother a player.
I believe it's dehumanizing. It's not the part that I was disagreeing with Mina on. In fact, I would say that it's not a giant stretch to take all of that profit off of intimate spaces where the players are. It's not a big leap from that to how Donald Sterling treated his players, where he'd invite fans and friends in the locker room and be like, look at all these beautiful black bodies, and treat it as like a private VIP affair. But the part that Jerry always gets rewarded on, and I don't know how you can argue that this is bad for business, I believe the Dallas Cowboys are worth $3 billion more than any other sports franchise.
They are confirmed. $11 billion.
You guys remember that video that Jamie Foxx let out? That was wild. Do you not know what I'm talking about?
The one from the hospital or somewhere else?
No. It's a Jerry Jones video. He's at Cowboys practice, and he overhears Jerry Jones talking about a player. Oh, boy. Oh, you haven't heard it? I'll grab that video for you.
Thank you. Yes.
I will grab that.
This is news to me. I'm sorry.
Since
I'm
you wanted
shocked.
to invoke Donald Sterling. Okay.
Well, no, Jerry Jones is an old-timey, from another time oil man who doesn't much care about what the media reports on things, as long as it brings attention to his franchise, or where it is that he leaves his players or employees feeling powerless or dehumanized. His way of doing business is spectacularly NFL, Stugotz, and he doesn't do a very good job of hiding the overt greed in it and how much or how little he cares about how you receive how he decides to do entertainment.
He won the Super Bowls in the 90s with Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman. So, he's kind of checked that. I know he wants to win another one, right? But I think Jerry truly cares about being the most valuable NFL team in the league by $3 billion more than he cares about winning. If you're asking...
That is winning
That's
him.
winning to him, yes. Winning at business is winning to Jerry Jones. If you're asking... would that get in the way of winning? I feel like that's a bunch of players who didn't win who are making excuses as to why they didn't win. I don't want to hear it because he's taken a few people throughout the facility and they're at practice. And
It's
they're doing
invasive,
this.
Stugotz.
I know it's invasive, but it doesn't get in the way of winning. Come on. That's ridiculous.
Is it?
We've had people watch us podcast.
And it's super hard.
It gets
it's hard
in
to
the way.
focus.
It's hard for Chris to read when
Yeah.
people are in the room.
This is practice, not a game. They're
No,
coming to
it's-
practice. They're walking through the facility. How does that impact winning and losing?
It's a lot. We have to tell them, don't look at Dan. You got to give everyone all the rules. It's
Jamie Foxx, Mike, I don't know what that video is. Can you give me the context before it is that we play it?
Yeah, let's give video some time to rip the video. But the origins where Jamie Foxx was at a Dallas Cowboys practice. Maybe he was enjoying this incredible experience that Jerry Jones is offering his customer base. But he was there standing next to Jerry Jones at practice out in the stands, and Jerry Jones was rattling off stats. And then it ends with a surprising thing that is out there for a little bit before Jamie Foxx decides to cut off the live broadcast.
measurement you don't usually hear.
Yeah. And look, these front offices, they think about everything when they're talent evaluating. They go through every it probably is on an actual scouting report.
It's not an Arnold Palmer situation, is it?
Yeah. That's a difficult one to say.
Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. What's his nickname? Does he have a Golden Bear type nickname, Arnold?
That's a good question. Arnie's Army was the nickname of his fan base. I want to hear this Jamie Foxx.
It is a game of inches.
Thank you.
I don't think I want to hear it anymore.
Wasn't he the king?
He is the king, yeah.
King. Yeah, but there's so many kings.
Elvis is the king.
Yeah. When I say the Golden Bear, you know who I'm talking about. When I say the king, there's pushback.
I don't think of Palmer as the king. When was that?
Elvis.
Was that popularized at all? I don't think that's something. Elvis is the king. LeBron is the king.
No, Elvis is the king.
How many other kings are there?
There's one king.
Yeah, LeBron's King James, not the king.
I've never heard Arnold Palmer
Slow it down. Nice.
said as the king. That's the first time I'm hearing that as a nickname. Is that you're our golf expert? Is that a thing? Is that something?
I mean, the king is for Elvis. It's not for Arnie. I love you, Arnold, but it's not. That's reserved for one person, and it's Elvis Presley.
But we've also shortened it. He wasn't nicknamed the king. He was the king of rock and roll.
Arnold Palmer was?
No, Elvis Presley.
Elvis.
There's
But
also
Which one was the
DeMar
one with the blue suede shoes?
DeRozan
Oh.
is a king.
But Michael Jackson was called the king of pop, but no one called him the
Yeah,
king. It was
right.
always king of pop. It's curious.
You know, Palmer, Jack, and Gary Player were known as the Big Three in the 1960s?
Mm-hmm.
So now we have multiple Big Threes. Which one was the actual Big Three?
I have never heard Palmer referred to as the king, but let's go ahead and play this Jamie Foxx video. I don't know why it is that I thought it was video from the hospital with
Did
Jamie
you watch
Foxx.
golf in the 60s?
I did not, but I just assumed that those were incredibly white guys who were the big three. Let's hear from Jamie
So
Foxx.
exercise patience here because it is practice. There's a lot of audio there. Let's listen closely. I don't know if they edited the sound on the front end out because this
Seems dangerous.
this audio pops up on the back end.
Hey, that's pretty good right there. He showed balance. 5'9.5", 210. 5'9", 210. 4'1". Okay. 9 3-inch head. 8.5 inch.
Windy.
Well, I heard that clear.
Yeah. Jamie Foxx, I don't think that Jerry Jones knew he was on video there. I'm not sure how much Jerry Jones, given his general soaked in power situation, cares about what anyone overhears that he is saying, because he has been powerful for a long time. He's had some scandals that just sort of vanish that would end other owners and bother other owners. But when your franchise, I'm going to say it again, because I think it's a shocking stat. His franchise is worth $3 billion more than any other franchise. Like there is, I don't know, maybe internationally there are some soccer clubs
Man,
that
he
are.
is banking on those tours.
So many tours.
Wow, so many tours. In fairness to Jerry Jones, it's only what it sounds like, and he could have been cut off in the middle of saying something. I don't know. He could have been saying like discus or something.
Unlikely. What is the most expensive or most valuable franchise overseas in soccer? Like
Hey,
what's
United or Real Madrid?
What's their tour
is
schedule
it
like?
worth $11 billion?
Yeah. I think it's up there. I think they're worth more than. I think Man United's worth more than the Cowboys.
I legitimately did not think there was such a thing as an NFL franchise or any franchise worth $3 billion more than any other franchise.
Mike, Manchester United is $6 billion right now. $6 billion.
I remember reading, like, when I was researching for Stugotz's book, that the Cowboys were the most highly valued sports club or franchise in the entire world, so that's probably still true.
According to Forbes 2023 rankings, it's Cowboys, Yankees, Warriors, Patriots, Rams, Giants, Bears, Raiders, Knicks, Jets, Real Madrid,
Dicks?
Commanders. What?
8.5 inches?
It sounded like
I said Knicks.
Jessica, I didn't know you
Game
did
of inches.
research
What's happening
for Stugotz's book. You did research for
Thank you,
Stugotz's
Smitty.
book?
Someone had to do it, Dan. I mean, I don't even remember what I wrote at this point. I guess I got to buy the book. You're welcome.
Man U, 49ers, Lakers, Cox, Eagles, Dolphins, Barcelona, Texans, Liverpool, Broncos, Seahawks.
Dolphins?
Oh, Seahawks.
What'd you hear?
This is on me.
We can agree he was the king of iced tea lemonades, at least.
Yeah.
That I'd give you.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he was the king, Dan. I don't think I made that up.
I'm not saying you made it up. I'm just telling you that that's not something that I've ever heard before in my
If you
life.
watched Columbo or Magnum P.I. or Matlock or Murder, She Wrote, you would know.
I don't believe that before now the majority of our audience has ever heard that Arnold Palmer.
You're gonna want to slow that one down.
It's
the king.
Bayern Munich, Dodgers, Falcons, Vikings, Ravens, Steelers, Browns, Testicles, Red Sox, Titans, Colts, Chiefs, Paris Saint-Germain?
Huh.
I'd like the remainder of
Cubs,
this.
Bulls, Panthers, Saints, Celtics, Jaguars. And then just Ferrari.
Oh, well, it's going to go up next year with Lewis Hamilton.
Wait a minute. I'm pretty sure a testicle snuck in there. I'm not totally sure.
How much are they worth?
It may have just been me giddy and delirious at the end of a show.
It's been a
but
long day, Dan.
I think there were some things you threw in there subliminally that did not belong in there.
Chris told the governor of Minnesota that he wants to watch more porn.
No, Dan brought up porn, as you'll hear in the post-game show for most people.
Good tease by me.
Yeah, that is Jessica referencing something that has not yet run on the show.
Stay
Now
tuned.
they're all going to listen.
But stay tuned.
Yeah.
That's also run live. Like, what are we doing? Stay tuned. That's actually a great tease.
Chris Cody, I cannot tell you how bad you were today.